and blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful as a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody as a war between dragons.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honour must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrin Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming indeed, but as Eli points out very aptly, in 2 years. So that is very true. That is very true. Winter is coming, ladies and gentlemen, but it looks like we're going to have around a year and a half or a 2-year wait until it gets here. But welcome one, welcome all to the episode 8, the season 2 finale breakdown of House of the Dragon. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We are going to dive into all of it. And I must say, it's been very interesting to see some of the initial fan reactions to this finale and the season as a whole. Usually every week after an episode airs, I go right to my community post and I put out, what did you guys think of the latest episode? And this one was very interesting to read some of the comments. Very entertaining comments, some of them. But yeah, it's been very mixed reactions, I would say, up until this point. Some people are liking it, and some people are really not liking it. And we're going to dive into all of it. And, of course, we want to hear from you guys in the chat as well. What did you think about not only the Season 2 finale, but Season 2 as a whole? And I've got a few polls that I am going to be putting up throughout the night, so I definitely would love to get everybody's feedback. And I'll throw up the first poll here in a few minutes, right after I'm done greeting the chat and saying what is up to my awesome, awesome co-host, Ravener and Kayleesi. Kayla, how's it going?
It's going. It's going. That was something last night. Yeah. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to talk.
No problem at all. And welcome, Ravener. Good to see you, my friend. And speaking of Ravener, we also had a Raven appearance in this final episode, the three-eyed Raven, which I'm sure we are going to talk much about. But welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it feels like we just did this less than 24 hours ago. But you know, we did the watch party and then the after show, and I mean the in the Discord we had a spirited chat in the Discord voice chat about things that went on. It was man, it was certainly something. I took a lot of notes on this episode. There's a lot, and then you know, you just kind of want to try to make sense of it all. You kind of want to get an idea of what's going on. But first things first, we definitely have to say hi to the chat, and we already have a $9.99 Super chat.
We do. We have to say what is up to the awesome chat. But first, we got $9.99 from Brian Holiday. Thank you so much, Brian, for the $9.99. Alicent seems like a character that always wants to feel like she's doing the right thing, so it doesn't seem out of character for her to try and make things right with Rhaenyra. Yes, we did have that surprising scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent, with Alicent sneaking onto Dragonstone, very sneakily like. I mean, it seems like the Maesters must have a really, really good smuggling system set up. She goes right to Maester Orwell and says, I need safe passage, and he makes it fucking happen. So the Maesters must have a very nice smuggling ring set up. I mean, these Maesters are shady. These Maesters are shady.
Waltz through the front door. Why? Nothing's going to happen to you. May as well.
Yeah. But thank you so much for the $9.99. And from Alicent's point of view, like you said, she does seem like she is one of those characters that she feels like she always wants to be on the right side of things. So I can understand, some people thinking that this makes a little bit of sense for maybe Alicent to kind of reach out. I feel like it's a little too late. I feel like, especially after they had that meeting between Alicent and Rhaenyra previously, a few episodes prior, it feels like that meeting just felt like it was, okay, now they both know there's really no chance of peace. Here comes the war. So I was a little surprised to see Alicent reach out again afterwards. But then again, Alicent is seeing Aemond slip deeper and deeper into paranoia and fear. So Alicent definitely, she wants to try and do something. She's seen her power completely diminished and stripped away from her. And this seemed like a last-ditch attempt to try and do something and get back in there, get back in the game, so to speak. But yeah, I guess we'll see where she goes. Guess we will see where she goes. Interesting stuff. But yeah, let's see who else we got here in this awesome chat. Let me scroll up a little bit, see who I can see. Vala Mogulis from Sharif. Vala Mogulis. Oh, Vala Dohidus. Right back to you as well, my friend. Right back to you. We got Vic in the house. What is up, Vic? Always good to see you, my friend. And Rip the Dodo Birds. What is up? Good to see y'all. Welcome. The trailer are just trolling, and the trailers are just trolling now. They won't trick us for season 3. Yeah, the trailers have been very interesting, to say the least, in terms of what they choose to show in these trailers and how the episode actually is as a whole. And that's the thing with trailers; they always are, they're deceptive. They can be deceptive at times. It did look like I did like the look of Sheepstealer that we saw. It looked like a scruffy dragon.
Me
and that
too.
was one thing I actually did like. Yeah, I do agree
that.
there. I like the design of Sheepstealer. Sheepstealer is famously referred to as a ugly mud brown dragon. And I feel like they got it okay. I feel like they got the description of Sheepstealer pretty good. Let me pull this up so we can take a look. But yeah, Sheepstealer, of course, is one of the 3 wild dragons that usually resides on Dragonstone that has recently migrated to the Vale in search of food, as it's described on the show. And we know Rhaena has been chasing this dragon down for the last episode and a half or so, just completely abandoning her duties, protecting Rhaenyra's children, by the way. Trying to chase this dragon down because, I mean, we know Rhaena, she's felt like she has been missing something her entire life. Her dragon egg never hatched, the egg that she was given as a child. And she has always felt that she was somehow lesser than her sister Baela and the rest of the dragon riders. She has been so desperate for a dragon for so long. So in one sense, I get her kind of just throwing caution to the wind to try and chase this dragon down. But yeah, I do like the design of Sheepstealer, though. I do agree. What about you guys? You like the design of Sheepstealer? I know, Kayla, you said you
love
liked it. Right?
I love it. I think Sheepstealer looks cute. I really like how the wings are like curving back and everything. I like how it looks all, like Kiwi said, scruffy, like a scruffy dragon. I like the look of Sheepstealer. I think it's like so ugly. It's cute. It's adorable.
It's very like it's way different from any of the other dragons we've seen on House of the Dragon. I don't know
looks
if it's just
wild. It literally looks wild.
That's a very apt description. It literally looks wild.
That scruffiness is kind of like like it looks like it's been eating sheep in an aspect, like how the scales are scruffy, kind of like fluffy looking on.
Like mangy coyote or something, yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting him to be a little bit bigger, though. I'm not going to lie. Sheepstealer is a pretty old dragon, I believe 70s, 80s, right around there. So Sheepstealer, I was expecting to be a little bit bigger. but it's not a great shot in terms of proportion size. Maybe once we get a closer up shot of Sheepstealer, it'll look a little bit bigger. But Sheepstealer is a big and formidable dragon in the book. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. And I love how the season ends with Rhaena kind of just face to face with the dragon and not actually claiming it. And there have been some comments that Ryan Condal has been addressing in terms of the possibility of Nettles ever becoming on the show, and Rhaena and Sheepstealer and all of this. He doesn't reveal much. He's very cagey and even a little smug at times, I must say, in his description. But I don't know. When season 3 comes around, unless I see Nettles like pop out from behind a rock with a sheep in her hand, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, this was so. I mean, that's the worst thing about seeing Sheepstealer is that it was tied into the Rhaena storyline. I mean, I was laughing because she's running like Forrest Gump, just like y'all went running, and she's just like running, and one was 28 seconds. I actually sit there and watch the timestamps and timed it. One was 8 seconds. Then they cut away and did some other stuff. One was literally just 10 seconds of her running. 10 seconds, a scene, 10 seconds. Why would you even put that in the show? They mismanaged this show. They mismanaged the time. Everything.
Time in this episode was very mismanaged. We get that one scene of Tylan just like singing a song and stuff. There was so much time they could have cut out from Tylan in the Triarchy stuff.
Yeah, and even the Sheepstealer was only 17 seconds, and that was at the end of the little montage at the end where they had to say, "Hey, remember these guys? We didn't put them in this episode, but hey, remember these guys?"
Why is no one looking for Rhaena? Like she is
that's a good point.
Like why is she just wandering around the Vale? Like I don't understand.
She's been gone for a little while too. I mean, we see at one point there's one scene of her literally kind of out there in the mountains of the Vale, at least overnight. At least overnight, at least once, because we see it's dark and she's sleeping, freezing. So she has been out here for a little while. I have to imagine whatever the gay abandoned when Aegon and young Viserys make it to the ship. I mean, I have to imagine some kind of alarm is going to be raised that Rhaena is no longer with them. Like, when did they not notice that she's not behind them anymore?
Why didn't she pack? Why didn't she take water with? She looks all dehydrated, like hasn't eaten.
She found that water and it looked like it saved her a little bit. It looks like she was really thirsty when she found that creek. She wasn't well prepared, that's for sure.
Not at all.
That is something that they mentioned, that she kind of just completely throws caution to the wind at the expense of endangering her own life. And that's kind of just to show how desperate she really is to get a dragon, that she's not even thinking about what could possibly happen to her dying in these mountains. So it was interesting. I get the desperation from Rhaena, feeling like she grew up a little bit different from the rest of her siblings and the rest of the Targaryens. But I don't know. I just, Nettles is a very important character that I think a lot of us really wanted to see. But I guess we'll see what happens in season 3. Again, if I see Nettles pop out from behind a rock, I'll be happy, but I'm not really expecting it at this point.
Rhaena's racing Mysaria for being my least favorite character in the show. It's like every time they came on. Then when they had the scene of her running, and I was like, oh, fuck. And then the very next scene cut, it was Mysaria. I was like, yep, there we go. There you go. You hate me. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see what else we got. We got Ando in the house as well. Gods, the writing was strong then. I know, my friend.
It was.
I know. Yeah. See what else we got. We got Caitlin in the house. What is up, Caitlin? Good to see you. We got the Vincey Spotter in the house. What is up, Vincey Spotter? We got Fletcher Targaryen in the house as well. What is up? We got Leo V in the building. Welcome, Leo V. We got the Playback Room. What is up, Playback Room? Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have everybody here this night. And of course, in a little while, I will definitely start throwing up some polls for you guys in the chat to vote on. So a few questions that I would love to get the chat's feedback on. And throughout the night, definitely let us know what you thought of the finale and as the season as a whole. We're going to talk a little bit about all of it. Fletcher Man with Antlers is Green Man from the Isle of Faces. Yes, we did see an appearance of the Green Men. A lot of people were wondering what that was when they saw it, just because nothing like that was ever in Game of Thrones. So unless you're a book reader, you probably didn't recognize that right off the rip, especially with the antlers. They're a little bit different than the Children of the Forest. But yes, those are the Green Men that reside on the Isle of Faces. This is the Isle of Faces right here, right next to Harrenhal. See Harrenhal here, you see the Isle of Faces here. This is where those green antlered men live. They protect the Isle of Faces. It is a very sacred place to the old gods, and they are the custodians and the protectors of the Isle of Faces. And they also have some very interesting abilities as well. Most of them are green seers. They're very closely tied to the children of the forest and the old gods. So I did enjoy some aspects of this Damon vision. I know it was catching a lot of kind of flack in some of our comment sections. I can't speak to the fandom as a whole, but there was definitely it was definitely coming under some scrutiny, and I totally understand that they are kind of going out of their way to remind us every once in a while that this is tied to Game of Thrones, like we don't already know that. So I do understand some people's criticisms, and I share some of them, even myself. But I did enjoy some aspects of the vision. Maybe it was just the nostalgia aspect of it. But this was one of the aspects that I did enjoy the most, actually seeing a green man for the first time. But I must say, seeing the White Walkers again, I thought would be really cool. I thought it'd be really cool seeing the White Walkers again until I actually saw the White Walkers again, and just the horrible prosthetic that they built up and the horrible CGI to go over it. I don't know if it was just me. We had a long talk about this in the Discord last night, and it seemed like nobody was really enjoying the aesthetic of the White Walkers. It just looked a little cheap, kind of. I mean, maybe it's just because it's a quick flash. Maybe it's because it's a very little bit of a different design, but I feel like they would have been a little bit better used, maybe using some old unused footage from Game of Thrones. I'm sure there is tons of unused White Walker footage left over from Game of Thrones that kind of was left on the cutting room floor. I think just for continuity purposes, to make it look a little more, cohesive, they maybe could have used some deleted footage like that. And I think it would have been a little bit better even if they showed the Night King here than just a random White Walker, if they are trying so hard to kind of keep connecting it to Game of Thrones. But let's get everybody's opinion on this. What did you guys in the chat think of seeing the White Walkers again? Were you happy to see them? What did you think of the design as well? I'd love to get everybody's opinion on the design. I don't know if it was maybe just us in the Discord, but a lot of people were not thrilled with the design of the White Walker. I don't know. It felt a little cheap to me, a little bit off. But what about you, Ravener? What do you think about the White Walker appearing?
Honestly, for me, on the first viewing and actually on the second viewing, it was in such a quick succession, like such a quick scene. It really didn't bother me as much as I think it bothered a lot of other people. What got me was I made the mistake of watching the making of, or like the after, when Condal and those guys talk about the episode and stuff, and they are so up their own asses about this stuff, and they're patting themselves on the back like they did such a great job with it. And I'm like, it was passable, it was fine, it didn't like overtly offend me or anything. It was just, but because it was like a fraction of a second in a flashback scene, it didn't bother me. But then to hear them like really jerking themselves off about how great they did, and like, oh my God, when we brought the White Walkers onto the set, people were just gathered around because they all wanted to be part of it.
Well, actually, I do actually understand that kind of that sentiment, and the idea of that sentiment in and of itself. Just considering what the White Walkers once represented, they were the most compelling villain in TV history for a while there, until their story arc kind of got ruined. So in one sense, I can kind of understand the cast, having the crew on set having some kind of feels, seeing the White Walker makeup in the flesh. It's kind of cool. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought the design could have been a little bit better. I mean, I didn't the actual White Walker being in the episode itself, I didn't really have a problem with that either. I wasn't like offended by it or anything like that. I didn't mind it. It just looked like they were just trying, to kind of connect this back to the whole prophecy of Ice and Fire that they set up on the show and all of that. For me, I guess my biggest problem was I just really did not like this design. It just looked funky.
Yeah, it was super quick. And I mean, I couldn't believe they had all those extra people they had like actual physical people with, and like the part that's being CGI'd was green. I thought that was cool. The only thing that I did think was cool is that like the parts that were going to be CGI'd were lime green, for the green screen and stuff. And that just looking at the process was kind of cool. But other than that, I mean, I was like, you didn't need to have 28 actual physical extras walking around out there, because it was not.
They didn't need to have any. They didn't need to have any. I mean, I imagine there's so much unused footage from seasons, 6, 7, and 8 that they could have pulled from.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Leo V points out, White Walker quality is a sign that maybe they spent too much money on Rook's Rest and the Dragonseed episode 7 as well, where we know a big portion of the budget in season 2 went to episodes 4 and 7. And yeah, who knows? I mean, you could be onto something there, Leo. Maybe they kind of spent a little bit too much on some of their battle and, high action set pieces, that it stretched the budget thin a little bit. I suppose it's possible. I mean, HBO is usually pretty good at throwing money at their shows, but every show does have a budget at the end of the day. So who knows? Who knows? What is up, Lord Nemesis? Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, they could just use the scene from Sam saw them at the Fist of the First Men. That would have been great. I think that's actually a really good idea, because that's such an iconic shot of the White Walkers. It's one of the first times we kind of really see the White Walker and the Army of the Dead, and it's just undead horde. And that shot is so iconic from that season 2 finale of Game of Thrones that, yeah, I feel like Damon could have seen kind of Sam hiding behind that rock, the Fist of the First Men, and seeing that White Walker. Yeah, if they would have used that shot, I think I would have been fine with it. I think that would have been even a little bit better than what we got even. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I like it. Yeah, design was poor, says Ando. Dollar Tree White Walkers. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh. I just wasn't really feeling the design of the White Walker. But it was such a small thing, and maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, and I'm totally fine with admitting that. That's fine. Then we saw a few other shots. I guess, yeah, let's just break down the whole vision in its entirety from start to finish. Obviously, we see the Green Man first, which of course was pretty cool. I did kind of have like a oh crap moment when I saw the Green Man. I did think that was pretty cool, just considering the lore surrounding the Isle of Faces, the lore surrounding the Green Men. They're so iconic, and it's something we've never actually seen on screen before. We've never actually seen the Isle of Faces or the Green Men on screen before. So it was kind of cool to see a Green Man, and they look pretty accurate to how they're described in the book in terms of the kind of green skin, the antlers.
Yeah, the subtitles were funny. Yeah, the
subtitles were hilarious.
A horned figure, clip clopping, grumbles. Yeah. That was funny. Yeah,
it was pretty funny. But yeah, this episode, this scene in particular, definitely revealed quite a lot of things. And Ryan Condal talks a little bit about it in the behind the scenes. And apparently he kind of all but admits that Alice Rivers has a big hand in sending these visions to Damon, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because we were all kind of trying to decipher what exactly is causing these visions for Damon. Is it the Weirwood net? Is it Alice Rivers? Is it the curse of Harrenhal itself? What exactly is causing these visions? And now we know it seems that Alice Rivers has some sort of green seer ability, and she was kind of helping facilitate these visions in some way. And we did see a little bit of evidence of that a few episodes back when Alice Rivers talks to Damon and says, "It's a shame you haven't met your mother," which clearly kind of indicated to us that at the very least she can see these visions that he's having. So Ryan Condal kind of explained it that was kind of Alice Rivers' purpose here in season 2 to eventually show Damon the truth. But yeah, let's dive into it a little bit more. Damon puts his hand on the Weirwood tree. And of course, anyone who saw the behind the scenes productions for a previous episode, when they talk a little bit about this Weirwood tree, it's funny. They actually carved George's face into this Weirwood tree, like specifically George's face. And it looks just like him, actually. They kind of got his likeness pretty good. But first, we see the roots of the Weirwood tree leading up to the three-eyed raven, a younger three-eyed raven, a younger blood raven who probably hasn't been in this cave for very long. It doesn't look like the vines are going through his eyes or anything yet. He looks very younger here. So I wouldn't be too surprised if this isn't quite long after his exile. And I don't know about you, Kayla, but I was totally kind of looking around to see, like, are we going to see Dark Sister somewhere, kind of like leaning up against a root somewhere? But yeah, what'd you think about seeing Blood Raven, the chat, and on the panel? What did you think about it, Kayla? I know you weren't too thrilled about it, I think.
Where do I begin without coming off like an asshole? I don't think this was necessary. I think that Blood Raven should appear in the Dunk and Egg show that they're going to do. I don't think that this was necessary at all. I don't think this adds anything to the show. I think even the aging of things is incorrect. Bloodraven, I mean,
Well, it all depends on where this takes place. We have no idea what time period this takes place in.
I mean, a young Bloodraven, he was 77 when he went missing behind the wall. Okay.
True. That's
so
a good point.
He was 77 years old when he went missing behind the wall. Bloodraven is like one of my favorite characters and very intriguing.
Super particular about Bloodraven. That's why I wanted
I didn't want to see a young like a young Bloodraven in this manner, in this way, or with the Dance of the Dragons. I just don't. This doesn't fit. And I mean, this vision as a whole for me, I mean, to me, this kind of really affects Damon's arc. And his characterization, it
fundamentally changes his whole character now.
It does. And basically, like everything that happened, he was already loyal to Rhaenyra from the beginning, how I look at it, right? He married her because she asked him to, pretty much, right? He cut off Damon's head for insulting her. He threatened Kingsguard. He made people swear to Rhaenyra as queen. Everything, just everything leading up to whatever happened with the events of this season. Okay, only for him in the end to just kind of become like almost Jon Snow season 8, my queen. I'm sorry. I just I don't want to be the asshole on here tonight. I don't.
Oh no, I will be. Yeah, you're gonna be one of 3.
It's totally fine if you didn't like it. That's what we're here to discuss the show.
Like obviously, I want to see. I wanted to see Bloodraven. I love Bloodraven, but this is not the manner that I would like Bloodraven to appear in as a younger version. And I just don't. God help me tonight. It's just like it's the conflict of loyalty is a conflict that the show has created for no reason, I feel. And I feel that this whole thing affects everything, and it even has consequences for Helena. It has consequences when it comes to lore. What exactly is green sight? What exactly is a dragon dream? There is a difference between dragon dreams and green sight.
They kind of make it seem like it's all one thing here on the show, and that was one thing that kind of I noticed as well, because they do kind of seemingly. I know it's very ambiguous in the book in terms of what causes these things, but it does seem like they're kind of caused from 2 different power sources, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of green sights being kind of rooted in the old gods, and dragon dreams being rooted maybe a little bit more in lore.
The blood of the dragon. So you usually have to have the blood of the dragon to have a dragon dream, and usually you have to have some kind of blood of the green men to have the green sight, which would make sense for Alice because Alice is Blackwood. Correct?
Yeah, it seems like Alice is full-on green seer. I mean, if not full-on green seer, definitely has some green seer abilities. And I feel like that is pretty clear for the show. Let me get to the super chat real quick, and then we'll get back into all this. Brian Holiday for $4.99. Thank you so much. I believe this is Criston's. Criston's attitude makes me wonder why he ever wanted to be a Kingsguard. Seems like all he ever wanted was woman and to bash skulls. Yeah, that one scene between Gwaine and Criston, I actually did kind of like that.
I liked that scene.
We kind of you're really seeing the cost and the effect that Rook's Rest had on Criston Cole in particular, Sir Crispy Crispin. He saw in that moment, he kind of see just how insignificant forces on the ground are when it comes to dragon fighting. And I love that line from him, when the dragons dance, men are like dust beneath their feet. And it's so accurate. It very much is. You really see just how insignificant ground forces are when dragons are fighting overhead. So you can really see Rook's Rest completely changed Sir Crispin. So it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of adjusts to that. It almost seems in that scene like he's almost kind of resigned himself to the fact that he knows he's going to die in this war, and he's kind of ready for it. It almost seems like he's not giving up, but it does seem like he's kind of reaching the end of his rope a little bit.
See, and that's another thing. I mean, and there's a recurring theme, and when we do the final review or the final rating, I'll tie it all together. But there is a recurring thread throughout this entire episode, and it kind of manifests itself differently for each person. But I did not like this. I mean, I understand, being a little shocked and that, but man, he's full on black pilled, in this one, and I don't like the nihilist, like nothing matters, it's all pointless, blah blah blah. Yeah. I mean, because they've already done enough. I mean, they've basically taken somebody who is, because and again, I think we talked about this yesterday. This story that we're seeing on the show is completely divorced now from the books. The characters aren't acting like the characters. Yeah. Well,
not only the characters, but, and I know we talked a little bit about this in the Discord, but it is starting to feel a little bit like this is like Ryan's making this his story and not exactly adapting George's story, is where it kind of starts to feel in season 2. Season 1, I really love season 1. And I'm not going to say I hate season 2. I definitely think season 2 is many steps down from season 1, but season 2 still has a lot of really, really great moments that I really love. But as a whole, it does start to feel a little bit like Ryan is making this his story instead of adapting George's story. And that's one of the things that we have heard George kind of have some subtle comments throughout the year, and he has been very kind of forthright in his stance that he is not a fan of shows changing source material. He's been very clear about that. Talks about the butterfly effect all the time, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he started saying some of that stuff because he was reacting to some of the things he's seeing here in season 2. Because I have to imagine George is probably liking a good amount of what he's seeing, but I have to imagine there's also a part of George that is a little disappointed with some of the changes, because we've seen how clear he is on how he really dislikes source material being changed. So yeah, on some levels, it does kind of almost feel like this is more Ryan's story on the show as it is adapting George's story.
Well, it's like, here's my thing. Like, if you look at shows that have been successful spin-off shows of shows, like look at Mandalorian season 1. Is a successful show. I thought the first season of Mandalorian was good. Or look at Torchwood. It's a spin-off of Doctor Who. It's great. But notice what those first seasons didn't do. Pound down things from the other shows or the other, like there wasn't a million things from Star Wars pounded down into Mandalorian. They kept the story for what it was with the Mandalorian. The same thing with Torchwood. They didn't pound you down with too many things from Doctor Who. I hope I'm making sense. These are like the top 2 on the top of my head that came up. So, I mean, the dance, basically, like what this is saying is like the Dance of the Dragon. It in a way, like the Dance of the Dragons is a story that can stand alone on its own. I feel we had the dagger and we had mention of the prophecy, and I feel like that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, I mean, would you want to follow this guy? I mean, he's, I see BK saying this, he feels guilty of the loss of so much of his host. True, but if you are the commander, if you're going to sit there and mope and look at your, shoegaze and have this existential crisis, do that shit in your tent. Don't sit out there in the open because your men are seeing you. It's going to be
demoralizing. Yeah. Very, very.
Yeah.
Like you said, he is the commander at the end of the day. People are going to look to him to leadership. They're going to look to him to take their cues in terms of mood. Like, yeah, you got to keep the morale up. So, yeah, you can't just be out there moping in front of everybody you're in command of. That's a good point, Ravener.
Thank you.
It could be a little bit detrimental to morale.
Yeah, Gawain is actually, one of the few good ones. Yeah,
Gawain has been so great. I love Gawain. I feel like Gawain has been such a great addition to the show. Not only Gawain, but Abubakar Salim as Alyn of Hull. They have been two of my favorite new additions to this show. And Alyn of Hull had the best scene in this finale.
Hands down.
That
highlight
scene between him and Corliss. Like when I went away from this finale, that was my highlight. That was the one scene that kept kind of sticking out to me. That awesome scene between Corliss and Alyn, where you can tell that conversation. This entire season had kind of been building up to that conversation between the two, because every time they had talked before them, they kind of dance around the fact that this is his father. But here they kind of just went right at it, and they kind of just addressed it, and it was so well. The dialogue was great. The performance from Abubakar Salim was phenomenal. He's definitely one of my favorite new cast members, along with Freddie Fox as Gwaine. Two great new additions.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when I took my notes, I was like, I can't be all negative. I mean, I can't be critical of every single scene. And that was one I actually did look. The Alyn and Corliss scene, it was an exposition dump. I mean, he did, it was like a lot of talking about what was going on. I mean, like what it was like, it was boiling over, and he finally just laid it all out on the table. But here's the thing. I mean, as we met Alyn through the previous episodes, he was real quiet. He was real sullen and quiet.
Very stoic.
When you get a character like that who's sullen and quiet, it's easy for that person just to become a tree stump, a very boring character, one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But man, did he ever make the most of his screen time in this episode. And he was absolutely, I mean, I think, you guys have already said, absolutely the highlight of this episode as far as performance-wise. In a very dark episode, that was definitely a bright point.
The way that he delivered his lines was phenomenal. You felt what he was saying.
Yeah, you genuinely felt for Alyn. I mean, especially when he talks about spending his whole life just begging and scraping to try and save up enough coppers to get through winter, only to see Corliss kind of march down the market with Laenor and Laena on silk furs, eating all these sweetmeats. Like, you really got a sense of the hardship that Alyn has gone through, not only trying to survive, not only struggling to survive, but emotionally as well, as seeing this person that he knows is his father never once acknowledge him until the rest of his family is dead. So I totally understand Alyn's kind of frustration. He's like, now that everyone is dead, now you want to acknowledge that I exist? Nah, get out of here. You got to earn that.
And I love that
I look
too.
forward to see where they go in season 3, this relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, we're supposed to be like, Corliss is kind of like asking for forgiveness without asking for forgiveness. But the thing is, man, it's so cool. I mean, I do love that though. When people are actually like real people, you don't automatically get forgiveness just because you ask for it, or you start suddenly being nice after not being in the picture for 18 years or whatever. You don't just show up on the scene.
Daylights out of him. He literally like dragged the living daylights out of Corliss.
I like that. I mean, that's more relatable, so more human.
Years of like pent up rage and resentment, that he had, and he rightfully so. Had the right to do that. It just like boiled up, and he just kind of let him had it, and it was great. This scene was the highlight of the whole episode for me. I thought it was dramatic payoff. Is that like a proper way to describe this? Like, this was great.
Yeah, it was
dramatic
a good payoff.
And
it was a good dramatic payoff for all the tension that had been building up between these two.
He's a great actor.
He is. Abubakar Salim's good. I mean, I was so bummed when Raised by Wolves got canceled. I mean, that show was going.
He wants the rights to it. He was tweeting too.
He's trying. I mean, you see him tweet every once in a while, trying to revive this Raised by Wolves show. I mean, I think it's a little too late at this point. I feel like too much time has passed. But yeah, man, that show is heading into some very interesting directions. I was really bummed when Raised by Wolves got canceled. But it's interesting to see both of them now here on House of the Dragon, with Abubakar Salim playing Alyn and Amanda Collins playing Lady Jane. So they kind of both ended up on House of the Dragon in the end.
It was so funny when Corliss like dismissed him.
That some of this kind of paralleled, like there was some kind of parallel between him and Aegon's dialogue in an aspect, like how can I put it? Like what hunger does to a boy. And then and he's saying like in the end where he's like, if I survive this war, I will continue as I began alone. I don't know. It kind of like not foreshadowed, but paralleled something that Aegon had said, as weird as that sounds.
Interesting. Yeah, in front of the crew too, says Anno. Yeah, right in front of the crew. Watching them starve and be out in the cold when he walked by with furs and food. Yeah, exactly. You can really tell like the upbringing that the difference in how their upbringings were, and even though they're both Corliss's sons.
Yeah, and
So, yeah, it
he
was,
had that chambered. He didn't just come up with that on the spur of the
he's
moment. He
been
had that
wanting to say
chambered.
this
Yeah.
for years. This is a rant that he's been wanting to lay at Corliss's feet for a long time, and he finally got the opportunity to do it, without much repercussion. So yeah, this was definitely a really nice standout scene in the finale for sure. For sure.
I feel like they underutilized him after seeing this. I feel like he was completely underutilized as an actor this season.
Well,
I would have loved to have more of him appear, and certain things I think were kind of unnecessary, and I could have the show could have benefited from having him and his acting capabilities appear more often.
Yeah, there are, and I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past. It does seem, I know there's only 8 episodes, so I feel like that definitely affected it, which is unfortunate. But the screen time management was a little weird at times to see where they were prioritizing screen time and who they were prioritizing screen time to in a season that only has 8 episodes and is much more limited than their usual 10. And unfortunately, looks like we have recently got some news that, yes, season 3 has been confirmed. Season 4 is going to be the last season, but season 3 is also only going to have 8 episodes. I was really hoping they were going to return to the 10-episode format. 8 episodes, we've seen what an 8-episode season of House of the Dragon looks like, and it was a little bit of a disappointment overall. And I guess that's going to be my first poll of the night. Let me get this up here. I want to know from you guys in the chat. I'm going to put up a poll. What do you guys think about season 2 overall as a whole? Were you disappointed by season 2? Yes or no? That is the poll. I am going to put it up. I want to know what you guys have to say in the chat. Were you disappointed overall after we have now finally seen the full episode? We've finally seen the entire second season in its entirety. What do you guys think about season 2 as a whole? Can't spell here. Were you disappointed by season 2?
Yeah. Now, Condell also, I did watch a little bit of the reviews and stuff, or the interview that he gave, and he was talking about giving the gullet the time and space it deserves. And I was like, well, wait a minute.
Which I agree with. It does. The gullet needs an entire episode in and of itself, but this was a very anticlimactic ending to a season, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's what he said is, and I kind of, because I was thinking of it in terms of season 3, because he also said it will happen, quote, very soon in terms of storytelling. So we do know that obviously, if the Triarchy's coming and all this other stuff, that has to happen. So it might be one of those situations like they did at the beginning of this episode, this season, where they come out with a bang, at the beginning.
Yeah, and we discussed that a little bit last night as well. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised if they kind of continue that theme where each season starts with a major event. Like you said, season 2 starting with Blood and Cheese. Season 3 is most likely going to start with either the Gullet or the Battle of the Red Fork. They've been teasing this dang Lannister army all season. Well, not all season, but most of the season they've been teasing this Lannister army. And here in the final episode, we actually see they have arrived at the Red Fork.
Yeah.
And I have heard a lot of people saying this in terms of this last episode feeling more like one giant trailer for season 3. And I would even go one step further to say it seems like the last 3 or 4 episodes as a whole kind of felt like it was all just set up for season 3 with no real payoff in season 2. And battles aren't exactly what makes a show. I'm not one of those viewers that thinks you got to have a bunch of battles, you got to have a bunch of action, or the show's shit. I just want good storytelling. And even there was a great deal lack of action, but that wasn't my problem with season 2. My problem with season 2 was it just wasn't that great of storytelling, in my opinion, for the second half of the season. I feel like the first half of the season, episodes 1, 2, and 3, and 4, the plot progressed pretty nicely. We start with Blood and Cheese. We build up to the Battle of Rook's Rest in episode 4. But from episode 4 on, the plot doesn't really advance a whole lot. They maneuver a few pieces into place in terms of setting up the Dragonseeds, setting up the Battle of the Gullet, setting up the Red Fork, setting up the fall of King's Landing. They did a bunch of setup. But in terms of actually moving the plot forward, it didn't really move a whole lot from episode 4. So that's kind of my problem with it. It's not really the lack of battles per se that I had a problem with. It's just the disjointedness. It didn't really feel like a cohesive second half to the season, I guess. Just for me anyway. But again, everyone's welcome to their own opinion. That's just me.
They're going to have to combine either the Red Fork or the fish feed.
They can't do them both.
And the thing is, and the thing is, though, I mean, okay, spoiler, cover your ears if you don't want spoiler, but Jason Lannister dies at Red Fork, but that's the only other really significant thing that happens there. So when you get to the fish feed, that's when
it's a little more prominent. You see the House Stark come into play, the Winter Wolves kind of come into play,
and we saw them marching across the twins, and that's at the Green Fork. So they got to cross the Green Fork, Blue Fork, and then get down to the Red Fork. You saw that on the map there.
Of the Winter Wolves, we were robbed. My people of House Stark,
criminal.
We were robbed.
They're supposed to be mounted too.
They did in fact film a scene of Criston Stark crossing the twins with the Winter Wolves behind him, but for whatever reason they chose to cut Criston Stark out of the finale. I'm not quite sure why. It's an interesting choice. I mean, it would have been kind of cool to see Criston again. I mean, but we did not unfortunately get that, and maybe I get it why they kind of cut him. Criston's whole point of not being able to send his main army down south right when Jace kind of comes north is that winter is coming. I mean, he's too busy preparing for winter. So I kind of understand Criston being a little too busy to come down south. So maybe that's why they cut this scene. But you guys know me, just as a diehard House Stark fan, it would have been cool to see Criston on the twins with the Winter Wolves. Yeah. But they filmed it but cut it.
I mean, honestly, the stuff with the triarchy that was in the last episode, I feel like that's stuff that could have been spread out through the course of other episodes. Just like when we're talking about everything in general. And this, I never want to hear Damon ever say winter is coming. Never. Never. I didn't
mind it. I kind of liked it.
I didn't, because that's House Stark words, and his House words is fire and blood, and he should have been saying fire and blood. That's what he should have been saying. So I just thought that was so stupid.
Well, in the sense, I get what he's saying, that he's trying to tell Rhaenyra that he saw the winter that is coming. So I didn't really have a problem with that line per se. And we've seen so many other characters that aren't Stark say winter is coming. So I didn't really have a problem with it personally. My problem with the whole Damon thing is it seemed like the story arc kind of dragged way, way too slow. Yes, they were kind of building up to this moment to Damon finally kind of seeing the threat that is going to be coming with the White Walkers and learning what his role is going to be in the Dance of the Dragons. But, as fun as those visions were to kind of see, I feel like this fundamentally changes Damon's character as a whole. And I don't think we'll ever see the true Rogue Prince ever again now. Because that's the thing about Damon. What makes Damon Damon is he's the Rogue Prince. I mean, he looks at this prophecy stuff and he just doesn't buy into it. He believes what his eyes and ears report. So I get them kind of having to put him through these visions in order for him to believe. But from now forward, it seems like Damon is going to have not his hands tied, but in a sense, his hands tied, that he knows his fate. He knows what his role is going to be. So he's always going to be making decisions that are going to make him get to that end game quicker. And I feel like that just takes that just takes the Rogue Prince aspect out of Damon. Now that he feels like he has this grand destiny ahead of him, I get the feeling we're never going to see the true Rogue Prince again. I hope I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I just feel like this whole prophecy thing for Damon, it was just a very weird story choice to take for his character. And again, I saw a lot of people pointing out that Damon's storyline ended in season 2 exactly where it ended in season 1. And I didn't even really think about that at first. But when I stopped and thought about it, you guys were kind of correct when you said that. At the end of season 1, we see Damon bending the knee, confirming Rhaenyra as his queen, and being loyal to her. In season 2, we see that loyalty faltering for a little bit. He goes on his 6-episode DMT spirit quest, and now all of a sudden he's recommitted to Rhaenyra. So character arc-wise, he grew a little bit in terms of facing some of the sins of his past. I would say he kind of grew a little bit as a character, but in terms of advancement, yeah, he kind of ended up in the same place at the end of season 2 that he did in season 1. Only now he's got this newfound knowledge of what is going to be coming, and it's that knowledge of knowing what is going to be coming that I do think is going to fundamentally change who Damon is.
I
Because
mean,
now he's gonna, he feels like he's got this destiny. Now he's going to act differently, I think.
in an aspect, I don't know what they're trying to imply with this. I mean, are they trying
They're
to
trying to
imply
imply.
spoiler,
Well, they're
like
trying to
spoiler
imply
alert?
that.
Like, well, it's
Mhm.
kind of I kind of think because his ending in the books is ambiguous, right? So,
Very.
spoilers for anyone that hasn't read, he has an ambiguous ending, and you don't know the result. Is he alive? Is he dead? Or whatever the case. Are they implying that he somehow becomes freaking three-eyed crow of some sort before
I don't
Blood
think
Raven?
so.
I don't know. I don't know what they're implying, to be honest, but
I think they're
it's
only implying that they're just trying to show Damon that he has one specific part in this war and that he can't just bend the world to his will. That pretty much was the whole sum of his arc in season 2. For him to realize that he can't just bend the world to his will, that he only has a very, very small part to play in this grand game. And that's what these visions were, is kind of show Damon his insignificance in some ways, to show that he's just this one small part of this giant, giant cog. And that's why I wasn't a big fan of it, because it gives Damon this sense of kind of destiny that's just not Damon. But again, I'm trying to kind of separate book from show as hard as it is. I mean, the book is the source material at the end of the day. So everyone that gets kind of mad, and I have seen a lot of people kind of get very hostile and angry when people compare the show to the book. It's like, people, you need to remember the book is the source material. Yes, they're
Right.
two different canons. They are two different canons. The book is the book, the show is the show. But clear and bold letters in every intro, this show says House of the Dragon based on George R. R. Martin's Fire and Blood. So, I hate the backlash that I've seen a lot of people get. Some very nasty and hostile kind of comments every once in a while, kind of throwing shade at people that are comparing the show to the book. And I just wanted to say, don't let anybody tell you that you cannot compare the show to the book. You guys are fans of the show, or you're not fans of the show. You guys can watch the show in any capacity that you want, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, is kind of my whole thing with it. Because, yeah, I've seen some very kind of nasty comments throughout the season of people comparing the book to the show. And it's uncalled for, I guess.
I honestly think that Damon had no growth or character development this season then. Just saying, because this whole arc, it was just completely unnecessary to get him back to the same point that he already was at with Rhaenyra. And basically everything done, the conflict of loyalty, it was a problem that they created kind of like out of the blue for him to return back to essentially bending the knee and getting behind Rhaenyra. I mean, I feel like they could have done something so much better with.
Well, and that's the thing. It seems like they just didn't really know maybe they just didn't know what to do with Damon's character in season 2. Given at this point in the book, Damon does spend a whole lot of time at Harrenhal, and while the whole other war is happening, Damon spends a lot of time at Harrenhal. And it just seems like they just maybe weren't quite sure what to do with Damon's storyline in season 2 while he was at Harrenhal. So they kind of threw in this storyline. But yeah, I don't know. And if you guys like Damon's storyline, that is totally cool. I am so, so happy for you. Just for me personally, it was definitely one of my more disappointing character arcs in season 2. I get what they were trying to do in terms of getting Damon to realize that he's part of something bigger. I definitely get what they were going for. I just feel like that fundamentally changes who Damon is, but I get what they were going for.
Well, the thing is, I mean, for me, what it is, it's a George Martin book. So if you've read Game of Thrones, if you know anything, if you've seen Game of Thrones, everybody is flawed. Everybody is, there's no such thing as good or bad. I mean, anybody who is good dies, like Ned immediately. But it's all shades of gray. And that's where George lives, in the shades of gray. Nobody's untainted. But I was wondering how they were going to pull it off. And I think, we discussed this even, early in season 1 and when people were picking sides and, are you team green or team black, whatever. And it turned, I mean, I was kind of surprised that but that they kind of did pick sides, and I was like, man, it seems like they're favoring Team Black. Well, I think what they've done is they cannot make Rhaenyra have they're protecting Rhaenyra. I mean, the way this story is written, Rhaenyra is the hero of this story.
They're painting her in a better light than she is in the book in terms of making her much more likable. Definitely.
Yeah, and anything that she does bad is because of a man either being mad at her for not following their advice, or she's too sensitive, too cognizant of death. She wants peace too much. She's too peaceful. Blah blah blah. She's a hero, and she can't have any flaws. And we've seen this in Star Wars. We've seen this in Marvel. You can't you have to have a flaw. Your hero has to have a flaw, and if they overcome it, then that's the hero's journey. They become better. Your flaw cannot, and this happens. This has been around for like 20 years. Your flaw cannot be not knowing how awesome you are, and overcoming that flaw, embracing your awesomeness. That's not overcoming a flaw. That's just bullshit. And we've seen that in this episode. And the season 1 was all about the patriarchy, and even the actors and actresses talked about it. It's like, yeah, these women are being floated along without any control because of the patriarchy. And that was, I mean, it was George Martin bashing against agnatic primogeniture, right? The things passing through the first male of the line, and females couldn't inherit. Okay, that's a good commentary, and it makes sense. And we've seen, in real life examples how, women can, like both Elizabeths of England and whatnot. But the thing is, this season is all about humiliation. It's all about humiliating the male characters. You can't have, every female character is written in relation to a male character being humiliated, and it seems like they almost ran out of time with this episode, the last episode of the season. They wanted to get in all their licks before it was done, and every single character got humiliated or diminished in some kind of way, and it's almost like a sick fetish. Tyland, in his mud, in the mud wrestling fight. Aegon, oh, he got his dick burned off.
Oh my god,
like that kind of stuff. I couldn't even believe that. I couldn't even believe that.
Yeah. Jace, Jace
into laughter when I heard that. My dick, my cock is gone, right? It burned off in like a pop sausage or something.
But the point being, is now, I mean, he literally doesn't have a dick. He's literally been emasculated. Jace got dressed down by Bela. Yeah. Aemon got dressed down by Helena. Every single male in this character got dressed down or put in their place or lined up. This guy's literally on his knees, to
honestly, like what I think should have happened. I would have liked to see Damon cut. Why can't I think of his name again? I'm blanking on his name.
Which one?
Sir Alfred.
Yes, Sir Alfred. I would have liked, basically like for him to basically like, you want to show that he has loyalty to Rhaenyra and everything. I would have liked to see Damon cut his head off, freaking destroy him. I want to see Damon be Damon. I want to see Damon use Dark Sister. I want to see Damon freaking drag him out to Caraxes and let Caraxes feast on his flesh. I mean, that would have been much better. Make an example of what you do to an actual traitor if you're betraying the queen and trying to cause something that's treason. Why not that? I mean, that.
Can you see in this final scene, like right after Damon bends the knee to Rhaenyra and he's all, yeah, we fight for our queen. You can see Sir Alfred in the background just scurrying away. He runs right away and he runs right out of the room, almost like he knows they're going to kind of come for him next. But yeah, no, I think that could have been a little bit of a better. It could have been a little bit of a better kind of show of. Here he is right here.
He should have took him out right then and there. He should have pulled him from the crowd and been like, what was everything that you were saying? Okay. All right. Let me show you what happened when you go against our queen.
It was interesting. It was interesting. And I get it. They have definitely trying to, it seems like they were trying to play up this whole is Damon going to portray Rhaenyra? Is she not going to portray Rhaenyra? And I get that's what they were going for. And I guess maybe it's just personal preference. I wasn't a big fan of that story arc for him. I feel like we saw some of this play out in season 1 already in terms of Damon being conflicted as to whether or not he wants the throne or is he going to kind of support Rhaenyra. And yes, we kind of see him do that at the end of season 1 and again at the end of season 2. So I totally get people kind of seeing the repetitiveness of it. I do think they were going for something interesting in terms of trying to have Damon grow as a character and realize that he's part of something bigger. But that's just not Damon, I guess, is my point to it. I get what they were going for. I just wasn't a huge fan of what they were going for. But let me catch up a little bit here. We got a super chat and some awesome stuff here as well. Just got off from shift. Love Lord Jeremy's House of the Dragon commentary. Thank you so much. You guys have been so supportive, and we love getting on here and talking about these episodes with everybody. But yeah, to just get back to the whole Aegon thing. I guess we are again. I laughed my ass off. I'm sorry, it might be cruel. But I absolutely bursted out into tears laughing when I saw that dialogue between Aegon and Larys. It was hilarious. It really was something. And then you actually, like you said, you legit hear him say, I have no cock anymore. Have they told you? It's like, no. And I love that when he says that. Larry straight up says yes. Like, yes, I do know that. But yeah, this was just hilarious. It kind of instantly brought me back to this scene.
Aegon the dragon cock.
Yes, yes, yeah, the untamable beast.
Yeah. Aegon, he's no longer Aegon the Dragon Cock. He is Aegon the Dragon. He's Aegon the Dragon Cockless now. Yeah. So long, Aegon the Dragon Cock. It is Aegon the Dragon Cockless, or Aegon the Eunuch, whatever you prefer. But yeah, I laughed my ass off when I saw this dialogue. Just seeing you can just see how defeated he is here in this scene. That he's broken, he's disfigured, he's crippled, and he doesn't even have a penis anymore on top of it. And the way that he describes what happened to it in terms of it burning up and popping like a sausage, I felt that. And I know every other dude felt that when they heard that dialogue. We felt that. I mean, maybe it's just a dude thing, but I felt that in my stomach when he said that fucking line. It was, I don't know, it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
One thing though.
One
one thing, and getting focused on what Aegon is saying, it's easy to lose track of what Larys was saying, and because Larys is at this point in the story, Larys is telling him we need to get the F out of out of King's Landing, and he doesn't want to. Aegon absolutely does not want to. And really, if you guys are going to rewatch it, focus on how Larys convinces him. He gets real close. He has a very urgent, like a plaintive, urgent whisper, and he starts whispering into Aegon's ear about how, envision what it will be like when you come back triumphant. Trying to put that into his mind to really, because this is a guy, and that shows how much he knows Aegon's character. If he tried to strong arm him, kind of the way Aemond tried to strong arm Helena. If Larys tried to strong arm Aegon, he would have gotten pushback. What Larys needed to do was weave this story of vision that Aegon could understand and embrace, where he's eventually brought back as a conquering hero, somebody loved. And Aegon literally says it, the realm's delight. Yeah.
The realm's delight.
Yeah.
Well, I think when Sunfire returns, unless they made the mistake of killing Sunfire off, and if that is,
he straight up says, "My dragon's dead," and I was wondering, what? Is
so
Sunfire really dead, or does he just think
case,
Sunfire's dead?
I mean,
that's the thing. Does he just think Sunfire's dead, or is Sunfire actually dead?
I'm thinking he thinks Sunfire is dead, because if they've been trying to push this and tie this into Game of Thrones, correct? So we already know in Game of Thrones how the dance is going to end. We know from Shireen, and we know from Joffrey. So
yeah, when I heard that, I definitely kind of had a look on my face, and maybe I was just thinking that, yes, like you said, maybe he just thinks Sunfire's dead, and maybe Sunfire isn't actually dead, because Sunfire has a lot more to do on the story. It's one of the most important dragons to the ending of the dance.
And we also know that the connection between dragons and their riders. So, for
Well, that's the
instance,
thing. He should feel if Sunfire was dead, he
well,
should have
no,
felt that in some way.
not necessarily that I'm speaking of, but I'm speaking of who was it? Why can't I think right now? But when the dragon returns to him and everything, he will regain his strength back.
His strength.
Of
Yeah, that
some,
happens to
some
Aenys.
sort.
That
Yeah.
happens to, that happens to Aenys in the book. Aenys is very
Aenys, yes.
sickly and weak and all of that. And once he finally gets his dragon, he starts to grow stronger and all of that. So maybe if Sunfire isn't dead and Sunfire kind of, if he ever reunites with Sunfire, maybe that could help get him back on his feet again. I definitely buy that, Kayla. Hell yeah.
I like this. I like this super
was,
chat.
Yes, let me get to this. The Otto glimpse scene. Do y'all think that's Beesbury or Larry Strong doing of him being captured? And that is exactly what we were discussing in the Discord last night. Who exactly has Otto? And those were kind of the two most popular choices that we were kind of throwing back and forth. That it's either House Beesbury or potentially, maybe even Larry's himself.
Yeah, well, the cage.
There was just no setup for it. It just literally just came right out of the blue. I suppose you can say there was a little bit of setup for it in two episodes prior, when we do get that one conversation between Alicent and Gwaine. Alicent is explaining to her brother that she's worried about Otto. She's been trying to get word to Otto for 3 days, and she's received no return. So they were kind of setting up that maybe something could have happened to Otto. But yeah, that's the thing. Who has Otto captive? And is it Larry's? Is it House Beesbury? Is it another house that is loyal to Rhaenyra down in the Reach? Because there's a few small houses that are spread out in the Reach that are loyal to Rhaenyra. But yeah,
I definitely don't think. I don't think Larys, because that thing has 2 rows of bars, just like the cart that Otto, or just like the cart that Larys and Aegon are taking. This one has 2 rows. I was going to ask anybody, especially the guys that love doing deep dives, if you go back to when Blood was being tortured, because this looks, I mean, if this has 2 rows of bars and you can see both of them from this angle, this has got to be very, very narrow. I didn't see anything like that. I didn't recall anything like that in the dark cells.
It doesn't look like the black cells. It doesn't look like the black cells. I don't think he's in King's Landing.
It has to be a card or something.
I mean, I think it's possible Larry's could have him, but probably not in the black cells. It looks like some kind of cart cell that they're maybe moving him from place to place in, or some kind of other cell in some other keep. But yeah, it does look very close and confined. It doesn't look like it's a huge big cell. So yeah, it's really hard to tell. They don't really give us much here. We're kind of open to speculation, but it's fun to speculate, and I love hearing the theories.
I mean, the show did mention that House Beesbury has taken up arms against House Hightower for the death of their lord. And then coincidentally with the things in the books. I mean, but then there is the possibility that possibly it's not even, I mean, possibly not even Larry's, but maybe Otto is kidnapped while returning from orders on our Prince Regent.
Well, that looks to be the case. I mean, he got sent back to Old Town, and I guess it's all where and when did Otto get grabbed? Did he get grabbed still inside the city? Did he get grabbed when he was in transit from King's Landing heading down to Old Town? When exactly did Otto get grabbed? I get the feeling he probably got grabbed when he was on his way to Old Town.
I mean, look at his hair. It's like long. He's been there for a while, it seems like.
It's, I don't know. I don't know who's got good old Otto, but I guess we know now why we didn't see him in any other episodes in season 2. I know a lot of us were really missing Otto, just in terms of the kind of the really superb acting that Rhys Ifans brings to the show. I do feel like the show missed a little something not having. I know I'm probably a broken record. I've said that 10 times this year already. But I've been missing Otto. But yeah, it's very interesting. Who exactly has him? Is it Beesbury? Is it Larry's? Is it another house down in the Reach? Or is it someone else entirely? Someone totally different that we haven't even thought of yet? Who has Otto, guys? Who has Otto? We see some Beesbury options in the chat. We got 1 for Beesbury, 2 for Beesbury. We got 1 for Larry's. Awesome. Otto wearing that same outfit he has when he was fired. Oh, was he? All right, I'm gonna have to go back and look. That I didn't really actually try to correlate. But if he is wearing the exact same outfit he was wearing in that episode, then that stands to reason he got grabbed very, very soon after leaving King's Landing, or maybe even while he was still there. Beesbury's are involved in the Honeywine, and we did see a little bit of kind of setup for a potential Honeywine battle early on in season 3 with the introduction of Tessarion, as we see flying overhead, and the Hightower army finally making their way up north. So yeah, it looks like the Battle of the Honeywine is kind of slowly being set up. And that was the thing with season 2 as a whole. The second half of the season, it was really kind of just all set up for big events to come in season 3. They set up the Gullet, they set up the Red Fork, they set up the Honeywine, they set up the Fall of King's Landing, but we don't get any of these events to end the season off on. And to know that we're only going to get 8 episodes in season 3, and if that is the case, I imagine probably only 8 in season 4, they only have 16 episodes left to adapt the rest of the Dance of the Dragons, which means they're going to have to stuff a ton of events and maybe have the pacing be a little bit wonky, or they're going to be skipping a lot of things, similar to how they skipped the Battle of the Burning Mill in season 2. I get the feeling we're going to see a lot of battles get skipped in that very same fashion in season 3 and 4. There's just not enough time to adapt all this in only 16 episodes if you're going to adapt it right.
Yeah, and I think that was the cardinal sin of this episode, because this is the season finale, and they know that it's going to be 2 years. This is going to be the thing that people talk about or mull over for 2 years. So I understand the people that are saying, hey, this is awesome because they're setting up a whole bunch of awesome stuff to come. Man, I don't need awesome stuff to come. Here's a coupon. Yeah, here's a coupon for $5 off a pizza. No, man, I'm hungry now. I want a pizza now. You have to finish this episode with something. You have to finish the episode with something cool and exciting. I thought for sure we'd get a battle of some kind, and the thing is, yeah, maybe they blew all their cash on Rook's Rest and a little bit with the Dragonseeds and stuff. Well, you know what, that ain't my problem. You guys have to budget. You guys have to figure this shit out.
But really, this is HBO's crown gem right now,
right?
So it's hard for me to believe that HBO wouldn't throw more money behind this. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's really hard for me to believe that.
We saw HBO's kind of approach to the ending of Game of Thrones. HBO was fully prepared to throw D&D almost carte blanche resources when it came to really getting as many seasons of Game of Thrones as possible. It was very much Dan and Dave who wanted to end it early. Not early, but they wanted to end it where they ended it. HBO was very much on board to kind of keep that show going, which makes sense. It's a huge cash cow for them. Of course, they're going to want more than less. So I guess that's a really interesting kind of choice. And that's the thing. We've heard some very conflicting reports all year in terms of whose decision it was to cut it down from 10 episodes to 8. Earlier on, when season 2 was first filming and when season 2 was first starting, we kept hearing a lot of rumors that it was purely story driven, that they cut it from 10 episodes down to 8 because they moved a very big battle that they were planning to end season 2 off on to season 3, which could be the Gullet or the Fall of King's Landing or maybe the Fish Feed, most likely the Gullet. But then we hear some other reports a little bit later on throughout this, season 2 where Sarah Hess kind of hinted that it wasn't really their choice to have only 8 episodes. So we've been getting conflicting reports for a year and a half now as to whose decision it really was to only have 8 episodes. And yeah, I just feel like these 8 episode seasons, it's a little underwhelming, especially when you take into account that us as fans, we wait a year and a half, 2 years in between seasons only to get 8 episodes. And especially when I'm fine with only getting 8 episodes if it's really good storytelling. This just really wasn't that for me. I mean, I liked the first half of the season. The plot advanced very well. They adapted it as well as they could with a few changes. But the second half of the season, the last 3 or 4 episodes, it just felt like it was one giant setup for season 3 with no real payoff in season 2. And that's kind of my issue.
And you think, HBO is kind of getting, they got a reputation for canceling shows too soon, like Rome, like Carnival, like Deadwood, certain ones canceling things before their time and citing budgetary whatever. But the thing is, man, you got to splash the cash when you got an IP like and the thing is, even though Game of Thrones didn't finish greatly, it was absolutely beloved for the first 4 or 5 seasons or so. Right. So they know what they had in their hands, and they know what a well-adapted George Martin series could be. They know the potential. So they don't, I don't know, would they really be penny pinching for a show like this? Because they'll know something that's dragon focused. They'll know that the CGI budget's going to be through the roof, And you can economize in certain areas. You can economize on sets and locations and whatnot. But beyond that, they have to know. They have to know what they have the potential for. And I have a feeling. But again, though, I mean, I'm wondering, is it really? Do you think the writers? I think the writers are doing a very poor job. Honestly, they're mishandling the source material.
I think it's a little disjointed, and I know we've talked about this in the past, but I feel like there might just be maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. When you have a different writer for every single episode, you're going to have some kind of continuity and disjointedness from time to time. When you got a bunch of different writers that are all trying to throw their own vision into each episode, it's gonna mess with the cohesiveness of a season. So one thing I saw about Dunk and Egg, it looks like they're only having 2 directors direct every single episode in the first season, and Ira Parker is handling most of the writing. So I'm a little more hopeful for that in terms of continuity and it feeling like much more like one more cohesive vision. But yes, I do think for House of the Dragon season 2, there might be just too many cooks in the kitchen in terms of too many different directors and too many different writers for each episode.
Yeah, trying to fit it in. Because I was thinking in terms of like with Rome, with the series Rome, they did battle after battle. I mean, Caesar fought so many different battles, but the thing is, they didn't really have too many actual battle scenes. They would do almost how they handled what was the battle that they glossed over? The burning mill, yeah, like that. Yeah, you'll zoom. You'll enter. It'll be a cold open of the episode, and you'll see the aftermath of the battle with people laying on the ground and stuff. But you don't see. You don't have to have 100 extras on each side charging into each other. And they were even cheaper in Rome. I mean, they had like black, or cloudy, foggy scenes in the background where it was all obscured.
Of the budget,
but they didn't need to. Yeah,
of the budget.
Yeah, they didn't need to put all that stuff in.
And that sometimes is a little bit of a hindrance. Honestly, sometimes have a show having too much of a budget can really hurt creativity. And I feel like we've seen this in the film industry a little bit more than the TV industry. You look at Joker, the first Joker movie from Joaquin Phoenix. They filmed that movie on a $50 million budget. $50 million is all they spent on that movie, and it raked in over $1 billion, the biggest profit margin of the year by far. And then you look at Joker 2, and they're throwing hundreds of millions of dollars in the production for the second Joker. And from what I've seen, directors, writers, they really find a way to pull out that kind of creativity out of them when the resources are limited. It forces you to become more creative. When you have a blank check, sometimes it can take away from the creativity, in my opinion, just from what I've seen in terms of big budget shows compared to smaller budget productions. Sometimes having a big budget doesn't always mean better quality, is what I'm trying to say. And I think we're seeing that with Rings of Power in particular. But yeah, I don't know. It's again, I don't want to just kind of bash it. There was a lot of stuff in season 2 that I did really enjoy. I enjoyed the first half of the season. Rook's Rest was a phenomenal episode. I thought it was definitely the best episode of the season, not just because it was a battle episode, just because it was set up so well and it was just a good storytelling. But yeah, the second half definitely kind of floundered a little bit for me. I still found some really phenomenal scenes that I did really enjoy throughout. But yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people kind of saying something similar where season 2, towards the end of season 2, it all just felt like it was more all set up for season 3 with no real payoff here. And I understand that. I'm definitely of a similar mind. And yeah, we deserve more episodes. I mean, hearing that they're only doing 8 episodes in season 3, it definitely worries me. It definitely worries me a little bit, especially knowing that they're planning to end this with season 4, which Ryan Condal has recently come out and said. Yeah, I mean, they got only 16 episodes left to get through a lot of Dance of the Dragons. And like BK says, we're probably going to see a lot of stuff like this, skipping of Acorn Hall, the retaking of Rook's Rest. There's so much stuff that they're going to have to skip now. They're just not going to have time for all of it if they're planning on doing only 4 seasons.
Yeah, and there's also going to be too many scenes that they can't not put in. We talked about like the set piece battles, the major ones, and when we were talking, joking about how anything that comes out of the book now in this story that they've written for the show kind of feels like an Easter egg. Like they're just giving it to as fan service rather than trying to even attempt to be close to the books. But and I just lost my train of thought. Oh my god, I outthought myself.
No, it's fine. I did want to bring this up just because I have seen a few people coming out with this sentiment or asking this question. We need Miguel Sapochnik back and his wife. You can see the difference between the quality and pacing of seasons with their absence. Even Matt and Olivia mentioned the show was different without him. And I guess I have to ask that question. I would love to get everybody's opinion in the chat and on the panel. Do you guys think no Miguel Sapochnik in season 2 played some kind of role in it being not as good as season 1? Do you think Miguel Sapochnik had that big of an effect on the overall season? It's possible. It's certainly a valid question to ask, at least. What do you guys think? Think season 2 would have been better with Miguel?
As long as he wasn't doing the lighting. As long as he wasn't doing the lighting, then it's possible. Yes, it could have been a lot better, especially when you have cast members sharing that sentiment. So, I mean, I definitely think that there, is a difference. There's a huge difference from season 1 compared to season 2.
The show wasn't dark anymore, at least. That's
the positive. As long as he's not doing the lighting.
I was responding to Strega. That's what it was. She said there's too many ideas, and that's where I was going with that. Is there's too many things that they have to add. If you're going to add all these required set pieces, I mean, there's certain things that you have to add. If you're going to do the Dance of the Dragons, you have to have God's Eye. You have to have certain things. But it's almost like those things are an encumbrance, or they're getting in the way of what these writers are. These writers are wanting to tell a completely different story, and it feels like George Martin's book is getting in the way of them, and they're doing the absolute minimum.
That's exactly what I'm kind of seeing with the second half of season 2. It does feel, and again, the show and the book are two totally different continuities, but the show is still derived from the book. It does. Season 2 does kind of feel like they're telling their story and not exactly adapting George's story. And I know I probably sound like a broken record already, but I think a big part of that is, again, I feel like there's just way too many writers and too many directors. It's becoming very disjointed, as opposed to having maybe one or two writers handling the entire series, collaborating much more closely, maybe making it a little bit more cohesive, maybe. But I don't know.
It's a shame, because all of the actors are great.
This sums it up great. The Sundowners Club. It's still a good season, but HBO and the fans don't expect good; they expect great. That's a good way to put it. The Sundowners Club, yes, because HBO fans, we have kind of got accustomed to a certain quality of storytelling and TV production that is far above and beyond most other networks. So HBO isn't supposed to be good. HBO is supposed to be great. So I agree with you there, Sundowners Club. It was still a good season, just wasn't a great season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's how I felt. I mean, I've how many times have I said, I feel like great is off the table now. I just wanted pretty damn good, and I don't feel like I'm kind of getting that either. But we saw that.
I feel like the season was mid. I feel like it was mid. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, this whole season looks like a filler for the other 2 seasons to come. That's what I think. I think there were some great scenes. I think there were some great scenes. Absolute great scenes. But do I think that this season as a whole is something that I consider good? No, it's right in the middle.
It was a little, just overall as a whole, it was a little disappointing as a season as a whole. Like, if I'm looking at the entire season as a whole, not breaking it down from episode to episode, not breaking it down from really, really great scenes, which it does have plenty. If I'm just looking at the season overall as a whole, where it started to where it ended, just me personally as a fan, yes, I was a little disappointed with season 2. And that's totally cool if you were disappointed with it. And if you loved it, that's also totally cool as well. That's what we try to do here. These streams are all about kind of diving into these things and getting everybody's opinions. We want to hear what you guys think as well.
Yeah, I did see some people in the chat. They loved it. They really enjoyed this season. And for me, I'm absolutely, I'm delighted when it does scratch the itch, when it does, when somebody watches the show and gets what they want out of it, whether, entertainment, no matter how deep, deep dive or just casual or whatever they like, the aesthetic, anything. If somebody's satisfied with it, just because we're kind of, raking it over the coals. Yeah. Don't let that take away from your enjoyment, because,
everybody has their own opinions. thoughts,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
everybody's welcome to their own opinion. That's one thing I've been saying from day one. I want all opinions to be welcome here. Whether you love the show, whether you hate the show, all opinions are welcome here as long as you're keeping it respectful. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from what you guys truly think about it. And like Ravener said, if you loved it, I'm super happy for you. I wish I loved it. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. I certainly just don't love it. I was a little kind of disappointed as a whole, but I can still look back on season 2 and there were some just absolutely phenomenal scenes that I will remember for a while.
I mean, the costuming is phenomenal too. There's things that I think are so amazing with this season, but then when I look at it overall, like I said, I just feel it was very mid, and that's just me.
Yeah, absolutely not having Miguel and Ira both hurt. These scenes with the scenes with the male leads suffered, and the action scenes were non-existent except for Rook's Rest. And yeah, I mean that was one of these sentiments that a lot of people have been coming out with. A lot of people were wondering if Miguel was still a part of the show, if maybe it would have been a little bit better. And again, it is at the very least, it's certainly a fair question to ask at least. Mello says, yes, we need him back. 100% agree. Miguel directed some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones and the best battles. And he did. He directed some good stuff. I mean, I kind of always thought Miguel was a little overrated personally. Like when I look back on Miguel's tenure, just in my opinion, he really only directed one really great episode in the Battle of the Bastards. A lot of the other stuff that he directed wasn't the best, in my opinion. I mean, and we kind of saw what he did with the Long Night episode, and which was a big fumble. Now it's hard to tell if that was all his fumble or if he was kind of, if he kind of had his hands tied in terms of the script he was given. But I like Miguel Sapochnik. I feel like he does do some things very well. But I do feel like he is a little overrated. I mean, when I look back at his tenure, the Battle of the Bastards is really the only great episode that he's ever really directed, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe having him here would have added that kind of extra other layer of that aspect. Because we did barely get any action in season 2, and I understand action isn't exactly what makes this series. But at the end of the day, this is a war show. At the end of the day, a war show with dragons. So people are expecting to see battles. Unfortunately, yes, people are expecting to see action. So who knows? Maybe having Miguel could have made it, could have improved it. I'm not sure. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not Miguel would have made it better. I think a lot of this show's problems begin and end in the writer's room. I think the writing is the biggest problem of the show. Not so much the directing and the show running. I think it's the writing that is where the show is beginning to falter. But who knows? Just my opinion. Again, I did really like a lot of stuff from season 2 as well. So I don't want to just kind of dunk on it. There were some really good scenes and some good episodes still. But it's a fair question to ask. Definitely a fair question to ask.
So what did you guys think about Alice? I mean, Allison is dead to me now.
God. I know what you're going to say, Ravner.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of sour on Hugh for walking out on his wife last episode, or the Dragonseed episode. When Allison, when she did that heel turn where she's literally going to, she was, you don't
sacrifice.
Yeah, you don't just get to pull the plug when you don't want to play anymore. Plus, that wasn't Allison. That wasn't Allison's character. She was a creature. She was Otto's creature of schemes from the time she was super young. Schemes and treachery. She lived in that world. It was absolutely uncharacteristic that she can just roll out of bed and just decide that she wants to be humble. I want to be free from all of it. No, man, I did not believe that for 1 second. And then when Rhaenyra said, that I've got to take Aegon's head, that's going to be the price of peace or whatever. I was thinking, man, you better get real comfortable with that decision because I think we know what happens.
I have so many questions on that whole scene. How did Allison get into Dragonstone with a blockade, undetected, with dragons around, just everything? How'd she walk up in the building? And then that whole interaction. I mean, they already spoke in the previous, 4 episodes before? And I feel like they just reiterated the same conversation all over again. Yeah. But on top of it, what I thought was even more surprising is, they drummed up the whole green versus blacks things, right? So if Alicent is willing to open the gates and let Rhaenyra come and take the kingdom and everything, so what is it? Just the Blacks versus Aemond? Because we know Aegon's in no shape for war. That just shows how bad of a mother she is. She'll literally willingly.
Yeah, she's not a great mother. I think that's been clearly established. Alicent is a horrible mother. But what I keep seeing with these whole kind of secret meetups, it seems like the show is kind of continually trying to boil this down between a conflict between Rhaenyra and Alicent. And the Dance of the Dragons is so much more than just that. At first, I kind of liked the addition of Rhaenyra and Alicent starting off as friends. I thought it could add a really interesting, complex aspect to their relationship. But yeah, I mean, you look at some of the comments that Ryan has made in terms of explaining some of these, secret meetups. It's left me scratching my head a little bit in terms of some of his reasoning. But yeah, I mean, it seems like at times they are trying to boil the show down to a little bit more of this solely being a conflict between Rhaenyra and Alicent. And again, it's just the dance is more than that. The dance is about the end of House Targaryen, the end of the dragons, and what exactly that means for them squandering their dynasty because they could not put their differences aside. It's not just about Alicent and Rhaenyra. It's about more than that.
The Targaryens' worst enemies throughout history have always been the Targaryens
themselves.
Themselves, they would be untouchable.
Later on with the Blackfire Rebellion, and even before this, when we see the whole conflict between Maegor and Aegon the Uncrowned, Targaryens have always been their own worst enemies.
Jesus, I need to learn how to write a script. I will write the Blackfire Rebellion a show and do it justice. Give me George's number and give me someone that can teach me how to write a television show script. I'll find some artists to draw out the storyboards because it's similar to comic book work. I will make it happen and I will make it good and everyone will be thrilled.
Well, putting Rhaenyra in the Sept, like when Rhaenyra met Alicent in the Sept, they at least kind of set it up. They sent the little lady in waiting or whatever, and they kind of set it up that it was kind of pushing it, but it was still a little bit plausible. This one here, but Alicent coming this way, it's just like I'm dropping in and I'm going to walk out, with no problems whatsoever.
Alicent was your girl too. You know what? Corlys, finally seeing Corlys on a ship of some sort, a boat, I just want to say. And he's not even in control there. I just had to say that because every time I seen him on that boat, it's like I've been waiting to see him on a ship all season.
Yeah, in a ship with full plate armor that usually only ground warriors use. Hopefully your ship does not go down, Corlys, because you will be absolutely screwed. That is not the armor you should be wearing on a ship. And I saw a few people pointing out in the chat. I 100% agree. That is not the kind of thick armor you want to be wearing at sea.
Sorry, I'm all over the place tonight.
It just seemed like, it's cool. It's cool. It does seem like it was a little bit forced. Like you said, Ravener, their first meeting with Rhaenyra sneaking into King's Landing, that one I didn't really have much of a problem with. I thought it was actually kind of interesting character development in terms of what they talked about and the repercussions of the conversation that the two of them had in terms of Alicent finally coming face to face with the realization that maybe she misinterpreted what Viserys said. And for Rhaenyra, it was kind of confirmation for her that Viserys didn't throw her away in the final hours. So their meeting in the Sept in King's Landing, I actually had no problem with it. I kind of actually enjoyed that scene in terms of the character development that it set up, because it sets that seed of doubt. And I know I've said this a million times, but it sets that seed of doubt in Alicent's head where she's always going to be wondering, did I make a colossal mistake? So I did enjoy their first meeting. It had some real consequences to it, but this one just felt a little bit forced. They're trying a little hard to kind of bring the show back to Rhaenyra and Alicent when it should be about a little bit more than that. But one thing I will say about season 2, there were some phenomenal shots in terms of the cinematography. In this episode in particular, when Rhaenyra is flying to Harrenhal, look at some of these beautiful shots we get. We get some beautiful shots of Caraxes. We get this beautiful shot of Rhaenyra flying around Harrenhal. So I really want to say the cinematography was a step up in season 2 compared to season 3. There were some really great landscape shots, some really great just good cinematography all around compared to season 1, where they had some contrast and lighting and color grading issues in the first season, which they still have some issues in season 2 in terms of color grading. But the cinematography overall seemed to be much stronger here in season 2. So I definitely just wanted to shout that out. There was some beautiful shot. I love this shot right here of Rhaenyra flying around Harrenhal with the army down there looking like anthills. This is such a great shot.
And that was a real quarry with a real like causeway type ramp thing, which I thought was super cool. I thought it was funny that she parked her dragon way down that thing too. I was like, man, you better pull me up to the curb, man.
Caraxes too. Caraxes was like yelling out, like, "Please take me with you. Get me the fuck out of here." Yeah, like I thought that was so. I missed seeing Caraxes.
Caraxes has been getting a little bit of the
my little wormy boy.
You know, that's the thing with Ghost. That was the big problem that fans had in seasons like 6, 7, and 8. We barely got to see Ghost. And it did seem like Caraxes got a little bit of the Ghost treatment here in season 2. And I get, CGI budget for dragons is tight. But, Caraxes is your most interesting dragon and probably the most important dragon overall in terms of what he'll go on to do. So, yeah, I was a little upset that we didn't see a little bit more of Caraxes, the bloodworm. But again, that could just be my bias because he's one of my favorites. But yeah, still just some great shots. Really, really great shots in season 2. I was very impressed with the cinematography. The score, I also want to give a huge prop. Shout out to Damon Hajwani. He's just phenomenal. He really is the best composer that is currently working in anywhere, whether it's TV, film. He is the best composer working in the film industry right now. The guy is just such a genius. He continues to come up with these phenomenal scores, this phenomenal music that fits this world so well. So if anything, he's one of the MVPs of the season for me. Just phenomenal music. Absolutely phenomenal music.
He's amazing. He's getting me yoga
and it
jobs.
Looks like the soundtrack, as the Dodo Bird says, the soundtrack is amazing. Yeah, the soundtrack is out right now. I did just see them announce that. If you guys are looking for the season 2 House of the Dragon full soundtrack, it is available to purchase right now, and I'll certainly be getting it. I usually try to get all of these soundtracks because the music is definitely one of the best parts of this series and Game of Thrones. Even when we got to the end of Game of Thrones, when we got to season 7 and 8, when the story started to kind of fall apart a little bit, one thing that never fell apart was the beautiful music. Some of the best music in all of Game of Thrones actually comes in the final episode. The Last of the Starks is one of my favorite scores that he's done in all of these series. The score when Jon Snow is kind of going to the wall at the very end of Game of Thrones. So even though the story kind of faltered a little bit, the music never faltered once. Definitely, in my opinion, the best composer working in the film industry.
Yeah,
he is absolutely great. He is absolutely.
I downloaded that right at it was 1 o'clock in the morning. It was available. I downloaded it. Man. Yeah, just phenomenal. Oh.
And speaking of the phenomenal score, I know one score that we were all hoping to hear at least one more time before season 2 ended was, of course, the score that we love, the score of House Stark, the music of Cregan Stark, and just seeing that they deleted that scene of Cregan arriving on the twins, I was hoping we were going to hear this one more time.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honour must pay its price. North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark. But my ancestor, Torrhen Stark, began a tradition by making an offering at the onset of winter. 1 in 10 men from our household was to be chosen to fortify the watch. This is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North. Even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Yeah, bring us Cregan. Yeah, bring us Cregan sooner rather than later.
Man, come on, and that's the thing that they're changing so much from the book, except for some of the things that I wish they would change, like more House Stark. But yeah, hopefully we get a really good introduction to the Winter Wolves next season. I've been wondering if this character in particular is going to be Roddy the Ruin. He certainly fits the bill for Roddy the Ruin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with the hammer. Fuck yeah.
So great. They look so freaking good, man. I cannot wait to see these guys in action. And they are going to be a formidable fighting force. Probably the most formidable fighting force that Rhaenyra has on the ground in terms of their effectiveness.
Yeah.
All I know
into the wind, and they go for broke, and they are not afraid to die. We better get that line early in season 3.
We better get that line. Yes.
We've come to die for the Dragon Queen. If we don't get that line, I'm going to be so disappointed.
And we better get Butcher's Ball at some point, or I'm going to be livid.
Yeah. Well, they're all supposed to be mounted. For the fish feed, they're all mounted. So that'll be something. The history nerd in me.
Imagine the walk. Can you imagine the walk from Winter?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they're all in armor too. That's the other thing. And the Lannister army also was all in armor. And the history nerd in me just kind of like, I understand you have to have it visually, but man, you would not be wearing your armor if there's no chance that you're going to be engaged by the enemy or anything. You do not. It's so uncomfortable. And some of those guys had helmets on. I think in the Lannister army, you don't wear your helmet until the very last minute, man, because none of that stuff is super comfortable. But visually, I mean, we've been trained by decades of watching battles and movies and stuff that people can walk unlimited distances in full heavy armor and everything, when realistically you wouldn't put it on till showtime. But no, this was super cool. It was a good visual too. I like the variety of weapons and stuff. That was a question that I had though, is even the Lannister army that they showed in that flash of a second, they were the only ones that had carts. I mean, and that's where all your stuff would be. You'd load up all your equipment on carts, because man, you don't want to carry this shit. You don't want to carry this on your back. Ask the Romans at Teutoburg. You don't.
These Northerners, they're harder than nails. What are you talking about, Ragnar? They're Northerners. They're tough. Okay,
they're a different breed.
They're a different breed.
There's no other fighters in all the Seven Kingdoms that are like the North.
And that's why I forgive it. I comment on it, but I will forgive it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of just have to suspend disbelief.
It is. It's rule of cool. Yeah, you have to. And I don't hold it against them at all either. I mean, I commented on it, but I don't. I mean, I completely understand it visually, cinematically, all that kind of stuff, because you have to have them. It wouldn't look the same if they had it slung, like if that guy with the pole, or that spear or whatever, if he had his armor, slung on it. Yeah. It wouldn't look the same if they're in scrubby regular clothes, and they'd be harder to differentiate the people also. So we know that Roddy with the big old beard is going to, because a lot of this, I mean, that's what the problem I had with the original Game of Thrones is it's like, wait a minute, the 53-year-old white guy with a big beard wearing a fur cloak. There's fucking 40 of those. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell who any of those guys were. One from the other. So having them differentiate themselves, really helps me out a lot. If they could wear a name tag, that would be super helpful.
Again, I'm done with you.
Yeah. Every Northerner fights as hard as 10 Southerners, and that's very true. I mean, when you look at the North, and you look at where they live, and Theon Greyjoy kind of, describes this pretty well himself. How did we ever have a chance of defeating anyone that lives here, that lives in these conditions, under this rule of nature, these laws? How the heck were we ever going to prevail? When Theon's talking about the Greyjoy Rebellion in Game of Thrones, the first time he saw the North, when he first got brought to ward up north, he saw Winterfell, and his first thought was, no wonder Robert crushed our rebellion. How the heck did we ever stand a chance against anybody that lived here? And that is what separates the North from the rest of the kingdom. They're hard as nails because they have to be hard as nails to survive because of their harsh conditions. So yeah, one Northman is like 10 Southerners. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which is exactly why when the whole Aegon's conquest thing came around, all of Torrhen Stark's, not all, but a lot of Torrhen Stark's reported generals wanted to say, screw it, let's take the fight to Aegon anyway and see if Northern Valor can carry the day. Let's sneak in and take out the dragons or the dragon riders. That's the North at the end of the day. They are built different. They're a different breed of not only warrior but just person in general. They're just different.
And
they're hard
loyal.
because they have to be hard. They have to be hard in order to survive.
I mean, remember Big John Umber when he lost his fingers? Do you remember that? He just laughed it off, and he's like, "I like your meat.
Is tough.
Your meat is tough."
Doubtless, the Grey Dawn just meant to cut my meat for me. Your meat is bloody tough. That's the North right there. The guy loses 2 fingers and he just laughs about it. That
holding
is
up
who
his
the
bloody.
Yeah, that is the North right there. I can't wait to see them play a much more vital role on the show. Like, hopefully they are, a much more important. Hopefully they have a much more prominent role in season 3, and hopefully Roddy the Ruin is an actual new character that they are going to introduce, and it's not just like the Winter Wolves are just kind of extras. I really want them to kind of really characterize Roddy the Ruin, Red Rob Rivers, some of these other Northerners. Let's actually, see who some of these characters are. Let's flesh some of these Northern soldiers out, because let's be honest, who doesn't want to see House Stark on this show? Yes, it is the Dance of the Dragons, but come on, people want to see House Stark. They're always going to want to see House Stark. And now that the Winter Wolves are coming, hopefully Roddy the Ruin can get proper characterization in season 3 and not just be like some kind of background characters. I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. Yeah, have you seen their meat, Rob Stark? Yeah, my meat for me. Who's the greatest? Oh, this is an interesting question. Who's the greatest archer out of Allie, Bloodraven, or Red Rob Rivers? Ooh,
Bloodraven.
Interesting. I would say Bloodraven, just because Bloodraven seems to utilize maybe even some sort of magic with his archery. Like, his archery is described as being kind of unnatural. So I would say probably Bloodraven with his Weirwood bow is probably the deadliest one, or the one I would want to face the least, at least.
Yeah. Red Rob did take down, a dozen ravens on the wing, though.
He does. He takes down tons of ravens, and he takes out one very important character that I know a lot of us cannot wait to see during season 3. Yeah, Red Rob. We'll have no song sing about your bravery here, Kingmaker.
I wonder though, was his Weirwood bow passed down from? I'm trying to think. Was it Black Alley? I wonder.
Black Alley had a Weirwood bow as well.
I know. I'm wondering though, where he got his Weirwood bow from. They never.
Oh yeah, it's never stated. Yeah,
they never stated.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's never stated where he gets it, or if he makes it himself. Even I wouldn't be surprised if Bloodraven just made it himself. He seemed, he's kind of that kind of character that seemed like he would be capable of just making his own.
I just think because he's a Blackwood, right? And what if that was like a family heirloom of some sort?
Could be.
So I'm wondering, because I think she had a Weirwood longbow too. I think it was a longbow specifically. Yeah, so I wonder, I got to do some research on that.
It's her Weirwood bow. It's her and her Weirwood bow that actually takes out Amos Bracken during the Battle of the Burning Mill. And we see Amos Bracken is still alive on the show. They elected not to do their Burning Mill battle was a little bit different than it was in the book. But who knows? Maybe Bloodraven is carrying a similar or even the same Weirwood bow as Black Alley. Certainly possible. Like you said, similar lineages. We saw the Dragonseeds get their armor. They're mounting up and getting ready for business. Again, we got so much set up for the Battle of the Gullet that, like you said, Ravener, I wouldn't be too surprised if season 3 starts on a really, really big event, either like the Battle of the Gullet or even the Red Fork / Fish Feed kind of being combined into one. They have set up so many big events to get through in season 3, not to mention all the other big events that they're going to have to get through in season 3 on top of it. So it's going to be interesting. I will say this, it's going to be very interesting to see season 3 and the pacing of season 3 and what they choose to show and what they choose to skip over. Because unfortunately, they're going to have to skip over a good amount of battles. There just is not enough time left if they're planning on doing only 4 seasons of 8 episodes each. There just simply isn't enough time to adapt every battle, unfortunately, which makes sense.
Yeah.
From a practical standpoint, you can't adapt every single battle. That's pretty much all the Dance of the Dragons is. It's just battle after battle after battle after battle. So you can't do them all.
They're going to be here in this podcast. Yeah, they're going to be here in this show for 2 straight years. So they, the writers are going to realize they better put something in there, and they can't do the principle from The Simpsons where it's like, am I out of touch? No, it's the kids. No, you listen to the fans and listen to what we're saying about this finale and what we need to see. I mean, we know the From people did the same thing. And this is almost a very similar situation, slightly different. I think the writers intended to do, like, they had something in their mind and they thought that they were providing it to the audience, and the audience, it just didn't hit with them. So From second season wasn't quite as good as the first. This one, I think they thought that, I think they didn't give a shit. I think they just kind of like, like you said, they're telling their story completely independent of anything, full steam ahead.
It's their version of Fire and Blood. It's their version of the Dance of the Dragons, which is okay. I mean, they do have that right at the end of the day. It's their story to tell. I guess me just being kind of a book purist at heart, and there's nothing wrong with, liking the books a little bit more than the show. And again, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Yes, it does kind of feel this is a little bit more Ryan's story now and not exactly George's story. I think we'll get a mix of both going forward in terms of some changes and some faithful adaptations. I feel we'll probably get a mix of both going forward. But yeah, season 3 is going to be very interesting. I feel like season 3 is really going to make or break this entire series. A lot of people were very put off with season 2, judging by in a lot of the comment sections that we have been getting over these last 3 or 4 episodes. It does seem like a big portion of the fan base, or at least a substantial portion of the fan base, was kind of disappointed with season 2. So like you said, I wonder if they'll kind of take that into advisement, if they'll kind of, listen to some of the fan feedback and maybe, change course in some directions, or if they're just going to kind of go full steam ahead and continue to do their thing. Either is possible. It is nice that like you mentioned, the From writers, they listened to the fan base. They saw that the fans wanted a little bit more answers in terms of just not all mystery. And it seems like they listen to the fans and they are providing for the fans in season 3. That's just why I always say every stream, guys, if you have not seen From yet, get out there and check out From. It is the best show that is currently running on TV, in my opinion, with House of the Dragon being second. Actually, I'd probably put House of the Dragon maybe third behind Shogun now, because Shogun was so freaking good. But yes, really From, in my opinion, is so good. It's such a good show. It's got something for everybody in it in terms of all the different kind of narratives and genres that they weave in and out seamlessly on From. And it just feels so cohesive. It feels like it's all coming from one mind, because it is all coming from one mind. One writer, one creator, John Griffin. This is his vision, and he is putting forth his vision. And him and Jeff Pinker, the showrunner, they seem to be like very much on the same page in terms of what they want to deliver and what they want to deliver for fans. So yeah, Raven, I was super excited when I saw the head of MGM and the showrunner come out and say, we heard your criticisms for season 2. We took them into consideration, and we're going to deliver for you in season 3. And now we have From season 3 right around the corner, starting September 22nd. So right now, guys, now is the time to get out there, check out From seasons 1 and 2. It is on MGM Plus. It's also on Amazon Prime. Or if you are in the UK, it should still be available on Netflix only for people in the UK. But I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you take some time and invest in From. There's been 2 seasons. There's 10 episodes in each season. Season 3 is right around the corner, which will also have 10 episodes. And you guys got plenty of time to catch up. It doesn't start till September 22nd. So plenty of time, and I promise you will not be disappointed if you take the time to invest in From. You won't be disappointed. And we are going to be diving head first into all things From here on the channel in a few weeks. So we'd love for you guys to come and join us for the ride.
Yeah, and we've seen it we even saw it one very prominent example is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, when the initial thing got really rejected and the fans kind of said, man, this isn't isn't working, rather than digging in and rather than saying you're stupid, rather than telling the fans that they're wrong and digging in, they did course correct. And from course corrected, there's no dishonor in course correcting. And the thing is, when you give the fans what they're calling for, not everybody's a hater. Not every critic, is a troll. Not every critic. And most of the people that we deal with in our chat, and even us, we're fans. We want this to be great. We're not bitching about it because we want to drag it down. We want it to be better. And when writers and showrunners and big people up in the C-suites at these studios listen to what the genuine fans have to say, that's the best thing that they could get. That's the best thing they can do. They could do focus groups, but that'll be whoever they can get to do that. This is free. This is free. Kind of like critique. Some of it's very eloquent and some of it isn't. But they ignore it like Rhaenyra says. Leave me at your peril. Leave me again at your peril. Don't ignore the critics. You may not like what they have to say, but see if there's a little grain of truth in there, and there's no dishonor in course corrects.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with kind of listening to fan feedback. It's, criticism is meant to help at the end of the day. Obviously, you definitely want to tune out the assholes, people that are just kind of, you can always tell the difference between fans that are just shitting on something. And hopefully, fans like us that genuinely love the product, but just feel that it could be handled a little bit differently, just our kind of honest critiques. And hopefully they can kind of tell the difference between the people that are just shitting on it and people that have just genuine criticism that they feel things could have been handled a little bit differently. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with listening to fan feedback. I was super, super excited when we got that announcement from season 3 that when season 3 comes around, they are going to be giving us answers and that the true nature of the town will finally be brought into focus. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear from showrunners and writers right there. But yeah, I still have hope for the show. As Inside the Squared Circle says, I am back, lowborn friends. Let us look forward to the better days full of blood, gore, dragonfire, and war crimes. And I'm right there with you, my friend. I do think season 3 is going to make or break this season, this series as a whole. I mean, I don't think this series is in any risk of ever getting canceled. They'll get all 4 seasons. This show will definitely never get canceled. It's too popular. Even with a season 2 that was a little less than stellar at times, the show is in no danger of ever getting canceled. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting again to see how they're going to handle season 3. They have a lot of story left to adapt and not a whole lot of time left to adapt it if they're continuing this 8-episode format. So yeah, I am hoping for the best in season 3. I am definitely going to, obviously I'm not kind of chucking the show out the window. I thought season 2, like what some of you guys said in the chat earlier, good, just wasn't great, just was not great. Could have been a lot better. But I am trying to still have hope for the show in the future. There have been some interesting comments that some of the writers and showrunners have been making since the finale aired that kind of lead me, a little bit scratching my head in terms of some of their reasoning behind some of their changes. But this is their show at the end of the day. I am just a fan. I am going to watch what I see, and I'm going to give my honest opinion on what I see. And hopefully that's what people come and hang out here for, to just have an honest discussion about a world that we all genuinely really, really love. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see season 3, guys. We got a very interesting off season, and I can't wait to see what they do. And speaking of the off season, one thing I did want to touch on before we kind of shuffle on out of here tonight, we also got a very, very, very intriguing and interesting look at Dunk and Egg and the first little teaser trailer of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And let's play this right now, and we will talk a little bit about it. Only 6 seconds, but boy, is it a glorious 6 seconds.
You and I?
I'm Sir Duncan the Tall.
I'm so excited. I'm literally so excited.
And what I'm most pumped for is that Dunk and Egg is a completely different change of pace in terms of what Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are. Dunk and Egg, this is the kind of show, it's just really, really good character study. It's two characters. It's essentially a Westerosi buddy cop drama at the end of the day. You're not going to see dragons. You're not going to see a bunch of wars or anything like that. You're just going to see two phenomenal characters being brought in some very unique situations and seeing how they are going to get out of all of these situations. I have so much hope for this show. Yes, season 1 is only going to be 6 episodes, which makes sense. This is a much, much shorter and condensed story compared to Dance with the Dragons and A Song of Ice and Fire. This is way shorter. But I cannot wait. I am super hopeful for Dunk and Egg. I think this is going to be a very, very fun dynamic between these two characters. Egg is such a witty and intriguing young character that is just so beyond his years in terms of his mentality and how knowledgeable he is and how witty he is. And you can really see the difference when a Targaryen princeling kind of grows up in the Red Keep versus how Egg grows up out there with freaking Dunk. And it really makes Egg a better king for a while anyway, until we get to Summerhall. But I cannot wait to see this. I feel like this is, again, it's going to be a totally different change of tone from what we're used to. So if you are, looking forward to big battles and dragons and magic and all that, this is not going to be that kind of series. But what it will be is something a little more akin to, remember how awesome it was when the Hound and Arya were just trotting around Westeros getting into trouble? It's going to be kind of similar to that in terms of tone. And I can't freaking wait for it.
It's definitely more lighthearted out of all of George R. R. Martin's work. I would say it's like extremely lighthearted, and I'm so pumped for this series. I love these novellas, and I actually think even though the seasons are going to be 6 episodes, I think that works out because
it works. I think it works for the source material they're adapting.
Because when they took these novellas and they turned them into comics, the comics, like for the Hedge Knight, it was 6 issues. The same thing with the Sword and Sword and the Mystery Knight. And comic books are very similar to storyboards. So I think that for the 6 episodes, they can get it done. I'm just so pumped to see this. This is going to be completely different experience in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire for people to view, and it's just so lighthearted and endearing. And I don't like, this is one I don't really want to spoil for people because I want people to enjoy it.
Yeah,
and
we won't go into spoilers. We won't go
fall
into any
in love
spoilers.
with these characters. It's just very endearing, and I think he's going to be a great Sir Duncan the Tall. I truly do.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
although
think so.
his hair's not long, but he looks great. He looks exactly the part. And then child that is playing Egg, oh my god, the videos, how
Dexter
excited
Soul is the kid is so
excited.
Perfect for this role.
Yes.
He's been putting out some very funny videos. When he put out a video, well, the first video he put out was even better. When he actually filmed, or his parents actually, they filmed his reaction to his agent telling him that he landed the role, and the kid was just over the moon with excitement. And you can tell this kid's smart. Like, you can tell this kid is very smart. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He seems like he comes from a very, very well-grounded family, and a very good family. It seems like he comes from, because you see his parents come down, his sister comes down. They're all congratulating him. It just seems like he comes from a very wholesome family and had a very good upbringing. I think this kid is going to be phenomenal as Egg. Let me get him on the screen here so we can get a look. I think he is going to be so phenomenal as Egg, and he looks the part perfectly. And like you mentioned as well, Kayla, we have that one. Where's my egg shot? Of course, my egg shot's not here. God dang it. We get that one other video of him kind of going to the barbershop and shaving all of his head. He's ready. He's very committed to this role. I think he's perfect for the role. And I think people are going to like Egg, and maybe even a little bit more than Dunk if this character is kind of similar to his book counterpart, which I imagine it'll probably be pretty similar. But yeah, I mean, just you look at some of these shots. You look at this, very akin to this. Super similar imagery from the comics to the show. You got Dunk unsheathing his sword. You got Dunk unsheathing his sword. You got Dunk going to enlist in the lists. You got Dunk going to enlist in the list. just starting off, I love what I'm seeing here. I absolutely love what I am seeing. So yeah, guys, we got Dunk and Egg coming in 2025. We don't know when exactly in 2025 it's going to be coming. I'm hoping that we can get it maybe around springtime, summertime, the latest. But if nothing else, we will have something to kind of keep us busy for the long wait in between seasons 2 and 3 of House of the Dragon. And of course, if any of the other shows end up getting greenlit, like Aegon's Conquest or any of the animated series that are in development, that will just give us even more material to look forward to in between House of the Dragon seasons. But Dunk and Egg is coming. I am so happy to see this thing be brought to life. This has definitely been a very heavily fan-favorited novella of George's for very, very, very long time. So yeah, it's going to be awesome to see this. And again, just knowing that it's a completely different change of pace from everything that we've gotten already. As this says, for people that don't want to know, the first story is around 120 pages, so 6 episodes make sense. Absolutely. It's a much more shorter story. It's a much more condensed and self-contained story. They're not kind of trotting all over the globe like they are in Game of Thrones. It's going to be much more kind of secluded. I'm ready. I am super ready for Dunk and Egg. I wish they would have called it Dunk and Egg, but Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is good as well. But it's coming, guys. It is coming. And I'm ready for it. I am ready for it. I might even be a little bit more excited for this than season 3 of House of the Dragon, even, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, willing to give him a chance, man. No matter how sour I get on, on one episode, that's not going to spoil everything. So yeah, man, it's going to be a whole new set of people, whole new deal. So yeah, man, absolutely. I'm in.
I'll give any A Song of Ice and Fire anything a chance.
Yeah, I love the world.
I mean, I'll never give up on this property because I love it so much. I mean, I may not have been too happy about certain things this season, but that doesn't mean like
IP in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's still my favorite IP, and I have hope that next season improvements will be made and things will be a lot better. And like I said, I feel like in the grand scheme of things that this season is kind of like a filler, a filler season amongst all of the seasons, if that makes sense.
It was more set up for season 3 towards the second half of season 2. Like the first half of season 2 advanced pretty nicely in terms of getting to Rook's Rest. But yes, the second half of season 2 did feel like it was kind of all set up for season 3 events. But as Zeke for Bleak says here, I am definitely going to try and still, remain hopeful. I do still have hope for House of the Dragon. Again, even though I was a little disappointed with season 2 at times, there's also some awesome stuff that season 2 did as well. Some really phenomenal scenes that I will go on really enjoying for a long time. So it certainly wasn't all bad. It was just kind of a mixed bag for me personally. It just wasn't what I expected, I guess. But that's part of adaptations. As much as you want things to stick to the book, there are going to be changes from time to time. So I am still looking forward to season 3. It's going to be very interesting to see where they go from here, what pace they have, what they choose to show, what they choose to skip, how they choose to handle adapting this next phase of the Dance of the Dragons. I'm still looking forward to season 3. It should be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah,
but
I'll go into season 3 this almost the same way as I went into season 1. It was like coming home. I love the world, I love the aesthetic, I love everything about it. And I didn't know anything. I think at that point, at the beginning of the season 1, I hadn't read Fire and Blood, so it was just like nice to be back in Westeros again. Because I'm critical of George Martin and his writing too. But the thing is, man, he built a geography. He has a world. Everything is in place. He's got coats of arms and houses and all this stuff. He did the work. I mean, at least he's done that. Yeah,
it is such a rich world. There's so much to discover in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, whether it's the main series, the spin-offs, the novellas, the world books. There's so much to dive into when it comes to this world of A Song of Ice and Fire, and that's why it'll always probably be my favorite IP, in history. With Lovecraft being a very close second.
I mean, and then he was inspired too by all of that too. He was inspired by Dune, Lovecraft,
and Lord of the Rings. I feel like Lord of the Rings is the only thing I might put above A Song of Ice and Fire, just in terms of the totality of it, because it was completed. But if George does eventually finish A Song of Ice and Fire and he gets these last 2 books out, he could potentially be remembered in a similar Tolkien light. But for me, Tolkien will always be the GOAT, just because
He is going to get it done. I don't want to think any otherwise. I don't need the negativity. I need the next 2 books. I do.
Yeah.
Winds is going to be out soon. I feel
I hope
it's going to
so.
be out soon.
I
I
hope
hope
so.
so. I hope so.
I hope so.
I also think he took inspiration from Robin Hobbs, considering that they're friends. They shared an editor. And if you ever read the Farseer trilogy, you will understand why. There is a lot of parallels in that story. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the future goes for A Song of Ice and Fire and for the TV universe that they are cooking up. And could we see Aegon's Conquest come to light? We could. It is currently still in active development. We know that Mattson Tomlin is currently writing a script for season 1 of Aegon's Conquest. So hopefully we can get some news on that at some point during the off season. Hopefully it gets greenlit. But yeah, it is certainly a possibility. The Aegon's Conquest show has not been shelved. It is one of the 7 that is currently in some sort of development. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that we get Aegon's Conquest greenlit and some of the other shows greenlit that they're currently working on as well. But yeah, this is the time, folks. Now we need ratings. We need ratings. Now, now that we have seen the season 2 finale, where exactly would you judge season 2 overall as a whole? Now, for me, when I look back at season 1, I believe I gave season 1 as a whole an 8 out of 10, I believe I gave it, which is a pretty solid score. I really enjoyed season 1 of House of the Dragon. I feel like Paddy Considine was just, you guys have heard me, I'm sure, gush about Paddy Considine many times already. I feel like he was phenomenal. He was just such an incredible addition to House of the Dragon season 1, especially considering and this is where, at times straying from the source material, not straying from it, but adding to the source material can make the story even better. And we saw that in season 1 in some cases, particularly with Paddy Considine's character. King Viserys in season 1 is way better than King Viserys is in the book. So changing and adding onto the source material sometimes can improve the story. So I'm not against changes. I just want a good story, I guess, is my thing at the end of the day. But I gave season 1 of House of the Dragon an 8 out of 10 overall. Now that I have seen the season 2 finale, maybe my score will change after I rewatch season 2 over again. But as I am right now, I would probably give season 2 as a whole maybe a 5 or a 6 out of 10. I kind of want to be generous and give it a 6 out of 10. So yeah, that's why I'll go 6 out of 10 as a whole for season 2. Kayla, where do you put season 2 as a whole? And chat, let us know what you guys. Let us know your score down
what do
in the
I
chat
put it
as well.
as a whole? So,
yep,
I'm going to say it's a 5 out of 10.
Okay,
it's a 5 out of 10. I don't want to. I can't even believe I'm giving it this rating either. For me, I think there was overall one great episode. I think there was, and then episode 7, the last half of the episode was phenomenal. I think that there were some great moments, but overall pacing was a massive issue in this whole season. And from episode 4 on, somehow things kind of spiraled downward, where I thought it would be on the upward trend for me personally. And then the finale for the season, it didn't feel like a season finale. It didn't.
It didn't have that finality season.
It didn't have that. Go ahead.
It felt like there's still 2 episodes left to go. It's how this finale felt for me. Like there's still 2 more episodes that they didn't get to. It just didn't feel complete. It didn't have that finality final episode feeling to it.
There's so many things. I mean, I think that this was a season. I dubbed this the season of missed opportunities. I think I wrote that on your post earlier. Yeah. But this is the season of missed opportunities. And I think there were things that were not necessarily that were needed in here. I mean, me seeing White Walkers and then the White Walkers looking in this condition why? Why? At least make them look good. Yeah. 5 out of 10. I have hope for next season. Yeah, there was something missing from this season. There's a lot missing from this season, I feel. And I didn't think I'd give it a 5 out of 10. And then I don't know, Damon's arc really just didn't go anywhere for me. There were certain things that we could have skipped episodes and the character would have been pretty much in the same position, same mental aspect. I didn't see a lot of growth with certain characters, and the finale didn't feel like a finale. It didn't. I want a finale to feel like a finale. I could be on here forever, but 5 out of 10.
Totally fine. Totally fine. 5 out of 10. What about you, Ravener? Where would you put season 2 as a whole?
Woo. Usually I start very low and then kind of like talk myself into giving it another point or two on the upside. This one, man, I think I'm going to be the most generous I could be would probably be 5 out of 10. Because we worked our way up, and this is me knowing in my mind, I was like, okay, we got the good introduction on 1, 2, and 3. I knew it, and just like knowing the meta of how seasons are laid out, 2 and 3 will allow you to catch your breath and then put the pieces in place. Number 4, awesome, loved Rook's Rest. And then when 5 came, and it was, 5 was my lowest rated one, I think, at like 4 out of 10 for that episode. But I knew, well, you know what, keep the faith, because 5 was where they consolidate, your gains or whatever. Then 6 and 7, you build up again, and 8's going to be the banger. We're going to have another awesome set piece. We're going to get blown away, because that's when you have a season finale, that is what you're going to leave your viewers with until the whole next season comes. So that you want them to be wow.
And have good payoff for events. And I didn't feel there was no payoff.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cliffhanger ending either. You can end season 2 on a high note without it necessarily having to be a cliffhanger. We don't need cliffhanger endings to have a good finale. But this episode in particular, it didn't have that finale feel. Nothing really happened. It was pretty much all set up for next year.
And that's the thing. I mean, and I would like to say, well, maybe they just didn't know what they were doing. Maybe they were incompetent. Maybe they thought they did a good job. But like when I went on when I listed every single guy that got humiliated, I mean, they didn't miss a chance. Even like Jace had kind of come to the forefront. As a strong character, decisive. We started liking Jace.
The pouting child in the last few episodes.
Yes, and that was just like, where is this coming from? What is this for? Ulf was kind of the. I mean, actually, Hugh in this episode didn't. He kind of got out unscathed. He was like the restraining factor on Ulf. Ulf acted like, and the thing is, I mean, we understand Ulf is not cultured or whatever and not accustomed to. But there's the thing. I mean, there's not knowing. But if you're in a situation like that, if you're around royalty or whatever, you keep your mouth shut. There's no harm in keeping your mouth shut.
Yeah,
he's one of those aggressively ignorant. Yeah,
there's bad manners, and then there's being completely oblivious. He kind of came across as completely oblivious in that scene.
Yeah,
I think he's on a power trip.
But I don't think what they did with all these characters is an accident. I think they did it on purpose, and I think they didn't care. They didn't care what impression they left with the viewers to mull over for 2 full years. They just wanted to get their little. They wanted to make their little point about, this guy got his dick burned off. This guy, got manhandled and thrown around in the mud, and everybody's laughing at him, point and laugh. And it was kind of like gratuitous and weird. And I was just like, man, I don't know. So it didn't scratch the itch for me. It didn't leave me with a good taste in the mouth, for to mull over for 2 years, to talk about this. Fine. And the thing is, every bit of it, it always left you wanting more. It always like, well, I'm in denial. I'm like, man, it can't be this bad. The next episode's got to be better. The next episode, well, you know what? This one kind of was a dud. We'll go on to the next episode. I mean, there's got to be a banger in there somewhere. And really,
I had a lot of hope for the finale, even with those kind of slower episodes of episode 6 and 7, or even 5, 6, and 7 being kind of slow. I still had a lot of hope that I was like, okay, if they nail the finale and it ends on a high note, I'm totally okay with that.
Trailer was a montage at the end.
Yeah, that was
the trailer was a montage at the end. I was like, what?
It was crazy. So yeah, I mean, and I would give the finale a 4 out of 10, which kind of dragged away any. I mean, there's only so much. There's only so much goodwill you can have, and there's only so much leeway that you can cut people before you have to say, man, you just didn't do the job. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for the season, 4 out of 10 for the episode.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, I was kind of similar. For me, I give the season as a whole a 6 out of 10. I would give the finale by itself probably a 5 out of 10. But yeah, I mean, and again, like, I love this world. I mean, I want nothing more than to love every single episode that comes out. But at the end of the day, I got to be true to myself and what I feel in my heart. And hopefully that's what, some of you guys come here for, the honest kind of discussion that we have about these things. I call out what I love, and I will definitely call out what I don't love. And I love to hear from you guys in the chat as well. What did you guys think of season 2 as a whole? Where did you rate it? What did you think about season 2 compared to 1? Let me know. Ando gives it 5 avocados out of 10. Cannibal the Dragon gives it a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10. Awesome. Vic gives it a 6.27 out of 10. Slightly above 6. Mother of Dragons gives it a solid 8 out of 10. Awesome. That is great. That is absolutely great. Rip the Dodo Birds gives it a 6.5 out of 10. We got an 8.5 out of 10 from South London Reseller. Hell yes, 8.5 out of 10. I'm glad that some of you guys really, really enjoyed the season. That is so awesome. Season 1 was a 7.5 or an 8 for me, says Radical Z. Yeah, season 1 I definitely give an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10 for sure. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Awesome. We got a 5.5 out of 10. Awesome. Henry Bemis gives it a 6. Okay. I like it. April May gives it a 10 out of 10. Ooh, okay,
nice,
awesome.
Nice.
If you love the season, I love that. I love that some of you guys loved this season. Again, there was a lot of parts of it that I really did love as well. 6.5 from Kiwi. Awesome. We got a 7.75 from Will Smalls. Love it. Love seeing these scores. And absolutely, you know me, Vic. I'm always going to be honest. Always going to be. And these guys will as too. And Kay Lisi will always be honest. We're going to get our honest takes here. So yeah, absolutely. I love it. Season 1, 8 out of 10 from Crazy, and season 2, a 5 out of 10. All right. Awesome. I think Preston Jacobs gave it a 3 out of 10. Oof, tough score. But again, hey, everybody's welcome to their score, right? Bob Cam gives it a 7 dragons out of 10. Awesome. Solid score. Episode 4 was my favorite episode in the series, not just season 2. Yeah, episode 4, I don't know. I would probably put it my second or third favorite episode overall as a whole. If we're looking at season 1 and 2, I would probably put the Battle of Rook's Rest as maybe like my third favorite episode overall. But it was great. It was definitely the best episode in season 2, I thought. Episode 4. They handled Rook's Rest very well. Delilah gives it a 7. I was still excited every week to watch. I always rewatched. And me too. That's exactly the kind of mindset I always kind of have going into these things. Even if a previous episode I wasn't too hot about, I was always super excited to see the next episode just because I love this world so much and I love these characters so much. So yeah, I definitely had a lot of hope going into season 2 and even going into the finale. 6.5 being generous because of Aegon. No more Aegon the Dragon Cock. It is Aegon the Dragon Cockless now, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Aegon the eunuch.
He's been great this whole season.
He's been great. Like Tom Glencarney, I must say, he's been one of the better actors on the series. I love his acting. He's so good as Aegon. And even though I don't like Aegon as a character, very much like Otto, I still very much appreciate Tom Glencarney and Rhys Ifans in the roles that they're in because they are just playing them so well. So yeah, I mean, you can't take away from some of the performances. Even if I didn't really enjoy all of these story choices in season 2, you can't take away from some of these performances. Some of the acting was absolutely phenomenal. And again, Abubakar Salim, he kind of, coming out of season 2, I would say Abubakar Salim is probably one of my MVPs of the second season, along with Bela. I think Bela needed way more screen time. I want to see much more of Bela in season 3. I feel like she carried certain episodes by herself, even at times. So for me, Bela and Alyn of Hull, Abubakar Salim, just phenomenal additions to the cast. And Freddie Fox. Again, I was actually really enjoying Gawain Hightower and him kind of sticking it to Crispy Crispin every once in a while. But in terms of just MVPs of the season, it's got to be close. It's got to be between Bela and Alyn of Hull for me. These two new characters were so phenomenal. They brought such an interesting and fresh kind of take to the series. So yeah, they're two of my MVPs for season 2, Bela and Alyn of Hull. Phenomenal storylines they had in season 2, I thought. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great scores, guys. Season 2 can be a 7.5 or an 8 overall. Episodes 2 and 6 were my favorites. Okay, awesome. Yeah, the long night is coming, guys. The long night is coming. We have a little bit of a long wait between seasons 2 and 3, it looks like. We have got confirmation. Season 3 has been confirmed. Seems like season 4 is going to be the last season, according to Ryan Condal. And it looks like season 3 production is starting early in 2025, which is a little disappointing. It'd be nice if they were kind of getting right into it and getting into production as sooner rather than later. That's 3-4 months of wasted time, unfortunately. But yeah, it is what it is. It takes a long time to film these seasons. It takes even longer to to flesh out the post-production and all the CGI. So if anyone is expecting season 3 to come in 2025, we should probably not expect that. I get the feeling we probably will not see season 3 until 2026. It's looking like that is probably going to be the case. But again, looking forward to season 3. I hope they deliver on season 3 a little bit better than they did on season 2. Maybe they'll take some of the fan criticisms into account. But overall, again, good season, just not a great season. Some missed opportunities, as you said, Kayla. But I'm still hopeful for season 3 going forward. And I am super hopeful for Dunk and Egg and
I know.
A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Next year, we'll have Dunk and Egg next year. So, I just want it to be at the point that we get a Song of Ice and Fire content every year. I will be content every year. One show. If it's 2, if it's 1 live action and 1 animated,
and
even
1 animated,
better.
that would be perfect. That would be so perfect. If they can get to a point where we get 1 live action and 1 animated every year, hell yeah. Kayla.
Yes, I will be all about that. So I'm looking forward to Dunk and Egg in the meantime while we wait for season 3, and definitely From, which you and Leandro recommended, and it's phenomenal for me because there's no source material to go off of everyone, so you won't have any problems to separate anything. From is a show you can just enjoy, and Jeremy covers
just
that.
Enjoy and just go along for the ride. That's the thing about From. It's one giant mystery that you're going along the ride for. So if you like shows like Twin Peaks or Wayward Pines or anything like that, you will love From. And again, season 3 starts September 22nd, which is just around the corner now, a little over a month. Less than 2 months. So you still have plenty of time to catch up if you guys do want to get out there. And I highly recommend you do. I promise you will not regret it if you give From a chance. I see that Ando has recently started watching From, and he is loving it so far. I'm so pumped that Ando is going to be joining us for our From discussions. Hell yes, my man. I'm glad that you are joining the Fromily. And again, I would highly recommend to all of my awesome A Song of Ice and Fire fans that have found the channel either this year or through other seasons, get out there, give From a chance, guys. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is such a good show with some of the best writing and some of the best characters I've seen in a very long time. And season 3 is just around the corner, so you have plenty of time to catch up on seasons 1 and 2. And we will be doing a season 2 rewatch party in our Discord leading up into season 3. And of course, everybody is welcome to come and hang out for that as well. And then, yes, Dune. as well. From season 3 is starting in September. It looks like Dune is going to be starting in November. So yes, when From season 3 ends, we will definitely be covering Dune. I'm a huge Dune fan. Dune is probably my 3rd or 4th favorite book franchise overall. So yes, I will definitely be covering Dune Prophecy. It's one of my favorite IPs. Love Dune. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with that series, set thousands of years before Paul Atreides, seeing the kind of first beginnings of the Bene Gesserit and how that order came into being. I am definitely going to be all in for Dune Prophecy as well. So yeah, we got From season 3 right around the corner, then Dune Prophecy right after that. And then it looks like we will have Dunk and Egg in 2025. So we got some awesome stuff that we're going to be diving into here on the channel. And of course, when Shogun Season 2 eventually comes around, we will obviously be covering every second of that. I loved covering Shogun this year. We met so many awesome people that found the channel through our Shogun coverage, many who still hang out here to this day and watch House of the Dragon with us. Like one of my favorites, Rooftop Korean, who always has me laughing my ass off in the chat. So yeah, we've met so many awesome people in terms of covering From, covering Shogun, covering House of the Dragon. I just can't thank each and every one of you enough. You guys have been so supportive all year, and I look forward to continuing diving into these shows and into these discussions. Even though House of the Dragon Season 2 is over, I am definitely still going to continue to do some Song of Ice and Fire streams on the off season. We will be talking all things Season 3 predictions. We'll be diving into some of the books, and definitely be keeping the A Song of Ice and Fire torch alive. So this is definitely not the end for us. We will keep up the House of the Dragon content as we kind of translate and transition over into From Season 3. We definitely won't forget about House of the Dragon still. But I cannot wait. September is right around the corner. It's the best birthday present I could have asked for, with From Season 3 starting literally 1 week before my birthday. So I cannot wait. Bring on From Season 3. The long night has begun, so we will definitely be diving into a lot of things that we are expecting and hoping to see for Season 3 of House of the Dragon as well. But again, I just want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us on these crazy, crazy adventures. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, as always, biggest thank you goes out to you guys in the chat. You guys have been so supportive, and keep I was about to say keep those tinfoil hats on, but that's usually what I end with. Damn, I'm all discombobulated. Saw something in the chat that that distracted me. Sorry. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you for all the support you guys have shown. Everyone who has found the channel recently and who have supported the channel recently, I just can't thank each and every one of you enough. If I could thank each and every one of you individually, I certainly would, because you guys have been so supportive, and it really does mean the world to me. So yeah, get out there. Check out From Seasons 1 and 2 if you haven't already, and come back and hang out with us for our From Season 3 discussions. Our From live streams will be happening every Wednesday night, and our usual Saturday night live streams will probably be a mix of House of the Dragon and From for the next few weeks until From eventually gets here. So I will still be going live every Wednesday and Saturday night like I usually do. So get out there. Check out From if you haven't already. Come and join us for our Season 3 prediction streams every Wednesday, which are always a ton of fun. And as always, stay kind to one another out there. Stay safe. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks. And I will see you on the next one. Bow.
Gods, kings, fire, and blood. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
The threat of war looms.
There is no war so hateful There's a war between kin.
I mean to fight this war and win it.
I will not be thought weak. I wish to spill blood.
And no war so bloody. Here's a war between dragons.